Hi, hello, and welcome to day 2 of the NFL Draft. This is Daniel with TDLive Sports, and we're going to get this show started very quickly here. It's going to be a rapid, quick fire rounds 2 and 3 here in day 2, Friday night. Lots of talent on the board, as you can see. We're going ahead and taking a look at the big board top 300 here. As we saw a lot of good players get drafted yesterday, there are still quite a few that have first round grades that are going to be available in today's second and third round. To kick that off, we're going to take a look at the running back position. We should see a steady amount of running backs going today. We did have Najee Harris and Travis Etienne going in the first round yesterday. But today we will have Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, the teammates out of North Carolina, most likely getting drafted among a couple others. Now, at the wide receiver position, we had a first round grade on Tylan Wallace. He was one of the receivers that did not go last night. We saw Smith, Chase, Bateman all ahead of him get drafted, as well as Kadarius Toney below him, and Jalen Waddle get drafted in the first round. Kyle Pitts is off the board at tight end, and at the tackle position, we saw Christian Darrisaw, Penei Sewell, Rashawn Slater, Elijah Vera Tucker, and Alex Leatherwood go in round 1. So a lot of good interior offensive linemen available. Some of the tackles are available as well. And we did not see a single defensive tackle come off the board yesterday. So Christian Barmore will be available and should be going early today, as well as Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame, who was a surprise faller yesterday. We had anticipated him going in the first round for sure, and he will be a steal today. So we have the Jacksonville Jaguars on the clock here, pick 33. Urban Meyer went ahead and drafted 2 backfield mates from Clemson last year, and Trevor Lawrence with the first overall selection, and Travis Etienne with the 25th overall pick. And surprisingly, we did see 5 quarterbacks go in the first round. We expected that all within the first 15 picks, but we didn't expect Trey Lance to go 3rd overall. So the 49ers mortgaged the future, giving up 2 future first-round picks, as well as the 12th overall pick to move up to pick 3 and take the quarterback of the future. And now that should be interesting since they have Jimmy Garoppolo, who may bridge the gap, start one more year, let Trey Lance work in there a bit this year as they move forward and have him as a developmental quarterback of the future. So looking here at pick 33, Jacksonville has lots of options. One way that they could go is with Patty Freiermuth, the tight end out of Penn State. The Massachusetts product has been compared to baby Rob Gronkowski. They call him Baby Gronk, and he's exceptional after the catch. A good threat downfield. Only played 2 years in college productivity, and he's really probably the best pass-catching option outside of Kyle Pitts at the position since the Rob Brevin Jordan out of Miami compared to a Jonnu Smith isn't quite as refined. And at 6'2" compared to Freiermuth's 6'5", we expect Patty to be the next tight end off the board. So 7 minutes between each pick here in the second round. So we'll be a lot faster than yesterday's first round. And we got the fans that are extremely excited. So we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, followed by the Jets, the Atlanta Falcons, Miami Dolphins, Philadelphia Eagles, Cincinnati Bengals, Carolina Panthers. Then we got Denver, Detroit, New York, San Fran, Dallas, Jacksonville, New England, the Chargers, and the Raiders. And we will be getting joined by fellow host Tom Broadbent in a little bit from now. And just to recap, our top quarterback available, Sam Ehlinger, was not expected to go in the first round. As you can see, we're much lower on Zach Wilson and Trey Lance than where they were picked at number 2 and number 3 overall. We were very high on Justin Fields, who the Bears mortgaged their first-round pick next year to go up and get their guy. So Justin Fields will be competing with Andy Dalton and Nick Foles in that quarterback room for head coach Matt Nagy, and we'll see how that goes. Mac Jones fell into the Patriots' hands at 15. He was the 5th quarterback off the board in the first round. We had him ranked as the 3rd best quarterback on the board. So an excellent job by New England. Seemingly, our sources said that they wanted Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. So the Jets had moved up from pick 23 to leapfrog them, go ahead, get Vera Tucker. And at that point, Belichick rushed in the card. They definitely had their eyes on Vera Tucker and Mac Jones, so they get their quarterback of the future there. And it will be interesting to see how the offense changes, if at all, going with Cam Newton to a more steady pocket passer like a Mac Jones. And we didn't have a safety come off the board yesterday, so we should have Trayvon Moehrig out of TCU coming off relatively quickly, as well as Javon Holland out of Oregon, Richie Grant out of UCF, a heavy hitter, and Andre Cisco out of Syracuse, Jamar Johnson out of Indiana, and Ardarius Washington out of TCU, along with Moehrig. And it looks like the pick is in, folks. We have the commissioner, Roger Goodell, heading up to announce the pick here. And lots of Jets fans here. So despite Jacksonville being on the clock, New York is up next, and it looks like it is exciting there. A rowdy crowd. And they're all booing Goodell to get this started. So now it feels like it's actually the draft. We got boos for the commish. Well-deserved boos for the commish. And we got some Hall of Famers out there on stage. I see Patriots Hall of Famer Kevin Falk. And here's Orlando Pace, John Randall, Drew Pearson. Anthony Munoz is out there. And Orlando Pace looks like he could still play in the league. He is a monster. Franco Harris is also out there. Great to see a Hall of Famer from Pittsburgh, known for the immaculate reception. And as Goodell is thanking the crowd for being there at the draft, the anticipation continues to build up as to what Urban Meyer is going to do next, as he's got the quarterback of the future there, Trevor Lawrence, in Jacksonville. And as Goodell speaks to the crowd, I'm going to go ahead and set up the audio so you guys can listen into what Roger has to say, and we'll continue to give feedback on the picks and give you the best draft coverage up to date here at TD Sports Live.
Pro Football Hall of Famers, Jojo Lamalura, Franco Harris, Orlando Pace, Anthony Munoz, Will Shields, John Randall, and this year's class, Drew Pearson. Okay, Cleveland, you ready to get this show on the road? Okay. Day 2 of the 2020 NFL Draft is now officially open. The Jacksonville Jaguars are on the clock.
Okay, and those are the magic words.
So we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, as you heard it there, on the clock. We'll be tuning in and out of the broadcast here on ESPN. We'll be announcing each of the picks here on the speaker and then giving instant analysis as to how we feel about each pick. The tides are changing there in Jacksonville. Very exciting time. You got Travis Etienne, national champion, along with Trevor Lawrence making up the backfield down there. Added to James Robinson, the undrafted free agent a year ago, who had over 1,000 yards rushing. Just an exciting time if you're a Jacksonville Jaguars fan. Rumors of Tim Tebow being signed to compete in the tight end room, wanting to play for former head coach Urban Meyer. Lots of weapons in the wide receiver game, as you have newly signed Marvin Jones to go with Laviska Shenault, DJ Chark Jr., Colin Johnson, the rookie out of Texas a year ago, a later round pick. So the Jacksonville Jaguars could address the wide receiver position once again, but lots of talent on the board. Personally, if I were picking here, I know I harped on it a lot yesterday, but between Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who would be a similar style player to Telvin Smith, who was extremely successful with them a couple years ago, or a Christian Barmore would be absolutely fantastic. So let's listen in with Mel Kiper for a little bit, and let's see what he has to say. And we thank you for joining us.
Andre Cisco, Syracuse, would have been up there, but of course he had the knee injury. I like Ardarius Washington coming out of TCU. Tough kid, overachiever type. DeMar Hamlin out of Louis Riddick.
And Ardarius Washington is very similar to a Bob Sanders type. He's about 5'8", 185. Plays much bigger than he is on tape in measurables. So he's a very feisty, tough kid. He and Morig at TCU were really fantastic tone setters in the back of that secondary. So as we look at the Jaguars from a year ago, they were 31st in the NFL in points per game, yards per game, and giving up yards per play. So they gave up 418 yards per game, 31 points per game, and 6.3 yards per play. So they haven't addressed the defense yet. In the draft, they did add some players via free agency, so we'll see here if they do address that side of the football. Lots of good talent on the board. If we look at the quarterback position, a lot came off the board yesterday, but there is still a great player, in my opinion, in Elijah Molden, and Tyson Campbell is also somebody we're very high on. And as we look at the corner position, our highest ranked player there on the board is Asante Samuel Jr., who's going to thrive in the nickel and in zone schemes. And at 5'10", 185, is one of the better tacklers in this draft. So extremely short tackling, something that should be valued extremely highly in the secondary.
Jaguars organization was telling me about Trevor Lawrence's arrival, how he was walking around the team facility today, spending one-on-one time with everybody from the equipment staff to the operations side. This person said it was almost presidential. This franchise very clearly changed yesterday, but like you guys are saying, they've got a lot of work to do to fill out this roster, and I'm told it will begin on defense. We should definitely watch that secondary. Lou talking about man coverage being an issue for the Jaguars. I can tell you that they definitely have some players at the top of their board to address that issue. We'll be very curious if they do that here early in the second round, Greeny.
Jeff, thank you very much. Again, they have the first pick here. Then, in a trade they made with Minnesota, they have the 13th pick of the second round, and then the first pick in the third round. So they have a chance to really make some moves tonight, Mel.
Yeah, Jamar Johnson's a little safety out of Indiana. We talked about the corners. Asante Samuel Jr. I talked about Tyson Campbell in Georgia. You know, and the length he has and the ability that he has down the field to break up a pass. Sometimes you think he should and he doesn't. Can you coach that out of him? Is it instinctive that you can't? Tyson Campbell tested like a first rounder. He's still available in round 2. So I think when you look at El Melifonwu at Syracuse, if you have Melifonwu at Syracuse has great length, he could be in that second, third round discussion. So we talked about it. You need somebody to cover these guys, both slot and wide, and this draft, the cornerback position provides it. I like those guys who are warriors, who are football players, and I love Ardarius Washington, the safety for TCU for that reason, and Asante Samuel Jr., the corner from Florida State, because he just goes out there and plays great football week after week.
And it's important to remember, their first-year defensive coordinator, Joe Cullen, former defensive line coach. So he's a guy that's going to want to start up front. You talk about front to back, inside out. They have a former defensive line coach.
Folks, and the pick is in for the Jacksonville Jaguars. As we cut off Booger McFarland there, we're looking at the defensive line. Christian Barmore, our best player available on the board still, 10th overall. Aleem McNeil out of North Carolina State, we have at 36. So this is the range that you'd be looking for in Aleem McNeil, potentially even a guy like Milton Williams. As you can see on the DN side of the ball, in parentheses, pick overall value chart, 42. Jabril Cox is another interesting player, transfer to LSU, really stepped up this season. We have him as the 40th best player on the board, as well as Azeez Ojulari, an excellent pass rusher off the outside out of Georgia. So as we see the Jaguars fans celebrating, having a good time, they've got a lot of picks coming up tonight. It should be exciting. They're continuing to build a team with spearheaded by the vision of Urban Meyer, who's one of the best college football coaches to ever do it. Looking at the offensive side of the ball, Landon Dickerson at center, Creed Humphrey both had first-round grades for us, as well as Wyatt Davis, who's still available as well. In the middle of that defense, a guy like Nicholas Bolton is a great hitter, 5'11 linebacker out of Missouri. So he could be a guy that comes off the board very quickly as well. So here comes Roger Goodell, and he's handing off the pick.
Between rounds 2 and the beginning of round 3. Here we go to start round 2.
And Kevin Hardy here with the pick.
I'm with the 33rd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Tyson Campbell.
Tyson Campbell out of Georgia. We saw his teammate Eric Stokes drafted yesterday. And here comes Tyson Campbell.
His teammate Eric Stokes was drafted last night. His teammate in high school was Pat Surtain. So as you mentioned, how'd you like to play receiver against those guys? Tyson was a sprinter in high school, so great speed to go with the size.
So what I find interesting about Tyson Campbell, as they just mentioned, 5-star recruit coming out, same high school teammate as Patrick Surtain. Surtain went to Alabama, of course, went 9th overall yesterday to Denver, and we see his high school teammate go to their rival over in Georgia. Had very good tape against wide receiver Seth Williams at Auburn. Matched up extremely well man-to-man with his size, with his ability to break on the ball with that incredible speed. This is a player that's definitely going to fit in extremely well opposite side of C.J. Henderson, whom the Jaguars had taken in the first round just a year ago. So this is a kid that likes to get his hands on you, very physical on plays such as slants. You can use him as a blitzer. But as far as athletic traits, everything you're looking for in the size athleticism combo, the sky is the limit if you can coach this player up. And as we look at what the Jaguars have done thus far, that's the first defensive pick in the Urban Meyer era for Jacksonville. They added Trevor Lawrence with the first pick, Travis Etienne at pick 25, and Tyson Campbell with pick 33. I personally would have gone with Asante Samuel over Campbell, but this is a very good player and a very good pick. We had Campbell as the 53rd best overall player. With the big run on corners late yesterday in the first round, this was a very smart pick.
Defensive back in the NFL. He can punch the pocket better than anyone. This kid has first-round skills. He's the quintessential second-round pick, meaning there's just something off, just a little bit that we weren't comfortable taking you in the first, but he's a guy who can quickly ascend to one of the better corners in the league if he can improve that aspect of his game.
And I think what you guys are talking about is a comfort level. When the ball is in the air and when you're in phase, are you comfortable in your own athletic skills to go make a play on the ball? Are you not afraid of getting beat? I think this is a great picking for the Jacksonville Jaguars now, and in the era where everybody's playing nickel, now they have Shaq Griffin, C.J. Henderson, and now you add in Tyson Campbell. You have 3 top-level corners to match up against anybody when they come out as 3 wide receiver set.
They drafted Henderson, the corner, in the first round last year.
Yes.
So the Jaguars, again, they'll have another pick in this round. But to number 2 we go, and that brings us to the JETS Jets.
So as we look at the Jets, they've had a 28 win percentage, which is worse in the NFL over the past 5 years, have not made the playoffs since Rex Ryan over 10 years ago. So this is a team that has been in the mud for quite some time. They had the fewest passing yards and fewest pass touchdowns over the last 10 seasons. So we've seen them struggle to identify the quarterback of the future. They thought they had it when they moved up to go get Sam Darnold a few years ago. They let Sam walk, replaced him with another quarterback coming in, prospect Zach Wilson. And we'll see if he's going to be the guy that sticks. They helped to protect Zach by trading up from pick number 23 up to pick 14, adding Elijah Vera-Tucker to go with Mekhi Becton, a first-round tackle, pick 10 overall last year out of Louisville, the 6'8 freak. So they're building that offensive line. They added receiver Corey Davis in free agency. They have Jamison Crowder. They drafted Denzel Mims in the second round just a year ago. This is an offense that they're building up. They also added Keelan Cole, and on the defensive line for Robert Saleh, added Carl Lawson and Sheldon Rankins. So the Jets became the first team in the common era to select two quarterbacks, top three in a 4-year span. And that's something that you don't want to do. You have to commit to a quarterback and build around him. So hopefully, as they're looking at the draft board moving forward, quarterback is going to be off their list as they identify players to support their current quarterback that they want to build with. So let's take a listen to what Mel Kiper thinks the Jets should do here with the 34th pick.
Tay Williams, a running back who is an every down back. He blocks, he runs with authority. Linebacker in high school up to his senior year. Recruited as a linebacker by some. Javonte Williams was spectacular this year, as was Elijah Moore. And there are a lot of players. We talked about the best available players. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah on the defensive side of the ball, outstanding linebacker. So I think the Jets are in a great spot here. They want to fill a hole on either side of the ball. They can. And talk about what they have at receiver. You have Jamison Crowder. You have Denzel Mims. Got some talent around. They got to get a tight end at some point. I think when you look at the running back spot, though, I'll talk running back all day in the second round, Lou.
I think what's even more important that if they do go running back, it's to get the kind of running back that they typically have had in this style of offense. Again, where does Michael Ford come from? He comes from San Francisco. Kyle Shanahan talked to us at length about the mentality that he wants in a running back. That is.
So as I'm looking at the players available, I think good fits for the Jets right now would be Trayvon Moore at the safety position, Javon Holland, or Richie Grant. If you take a look at the corner position, Asante Samuel would be their best bet. At the linebacker position, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. On the D-line, Aleem McNeil or Barmore. And the pick is in, folks.
Future Pro Bowler, Elijah Moore, wide receiver from Ole Miss.
And they add Elijah Moore, a comparison to Antonio Brown, the 5'9", 185-pound receiver, had 19 bench reps at his pro day, had over 1,300 yards last year, was absolutely unstoppable. And he's a guy that can line up in the slot, can play outside, extremely tough, extremely physical. Don't let his diminutive 5'9" shy away that this kid should have been a first-round pick.
Zach Wilson and GM Joe Douglas, who is doing everything possible to help his quarterback, and I gotta love this pick. But talking about him, it seems like this is about the 19th time I've mentioned his name over the last 2 days. And Elijah Moore, I tell you, he's a touchdown waiting to happen. You watch him, slot receiver, extension of your running game with the way he is after the catch. You look at that 5'9", 185, ran 4.32 at his pro day, catches the low balls, burst, explosiveness, breaks tackle, run after the catch, tough kids, change of direction as well. You gotta like that, and the hands and the concentration in traffic against Florida this year. He had 10 catches for 227 yards. As a sophomore, he had 67 catches. Also an excellent punt returner as well. Talking about a kid who beats you on special teams. With the ball in his hands, he's dynamic. And 4.32 speed. Who's going to match up against him with the kind of ability he has to catch everything thrown his way? Lane Kiffin made it happen for Elijah Moore this year. And I'll tell you what. Now you have a dynamic performer coming to the New York Jets to help out. We talked about Jalen Waddle helping Miami in terms of field position with his punt return skills. This kid will do that as well.
So as we see, the Jets continue to operate on the offensive side of the ball here. Pick 34 of the second round goes to Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss. The comparison we're seeing on ESPN today is Steve Smith. I compare Elijah a bit more to Antonio Brown. It's more the start-stop speed. His ability to work the entire route tree. I don't think he's as good of a deep threat down the sideline as Steve Smith was, or quite as tough, but he's a little bit more shifty like an Antonio Brown with elite footwork. So Elijah Moore, excellent pick. And it looks like we have a trade, folks. It looks like the Atlanta Falcons are trading the pick to the Denver Broncos. So the Denver Broncos move up to pick 34. or pick 36, my apologies. So the third pick here in the second round, pick 35, traded from Atlanta to Denver. And this has to be for Owusu, Koromoa, or Barmore. Unless they're really going after a running back there in Denver where they have Melvin Gordon. They did let Philip Lindsay walk. But beyond that, Samuel Cosme, a tackle out of Texas. Dylan Radins could be on their mind. Landon Dickerson, the big center out of Alabama. Lots of good players available, folks. And we'll let you know what the trade was for immediately once we hear. I thought the Jets were in prime position there to take best player available, and apparently Elijah Moore was their guy. So with Denver moving up, I thought the Falcons may have been looking at Javonte Williams, the 22nd best player on our board, a running back out of North Carolina, or Michael Carter, another running back out of North Carolina, who we have as the 32nd best player. Todd Gurley is still a free agent. And let's see if Denver goes up to get a quarterback. They do have Drew Lock. They traded for Teddy Bridgewater for a 6th-round pick. Just a week
value
ago.
there. I'm not quite sure here. Obviously, they have their eye on a specific individual here to get this third pick in the second round. They feel as though other people are going to try and take. But there's a lot of value in the secondary. I don't believe secondary will be the pick here. There's still a lot of value at wide receiver. They're loaded at wide receiver. Could they pick another offensive lineman? Is there a pass rusher they have their eye on?
I think Landon Dickerson or Creed Humphrey may be the pick. There's a big hole at the center position on this football team and on the interior offensive line. And these are two of the players we had with first-round grades that they may not want to miss out on.
Up here, we'll see.
It's a shame he had that injury in the FCC championship game. Yes. He was on his way, Landon Dickerson was, the 2 successive years being healthy after being really hampered by injuries up till that point, significant injuries, and then the SEC title game with the knee. He's a great kid, great football player, a warrior up front at that center spot, anchoring your offensive line.
All right, we are about to get the pick here again. The Broncos have traded up for the 3rd pick in the second round, and we're about to find out which player it is they wanted so badly. They made the aggressive move. Here we go.
Okay. The Atlanta Falcons have traded the 35th pick to the Denver Broncos. With the 35th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Denver Broncos select Javonte Williams.
Javonte Williams, the running back out of North Carolina. The valedictorian of his high school class.
What a birthday weekend has been for Javonte
We
Williams.
had him as the 22nd best player in the draft, the 2nd overall running back behind Najee Harris. This kid is sensational, folks. He was a second-team AP All-American, 5'10", 220, second-team All-ACC. And what he did against Miami this year, along with his teammate Michael Carter, was sensational. He had 19 rush touchdowns this year, and he was a bowling ball. He was running people over, had most broken tackles per touch in the entire NCAA this past year. If you watched him, he was running downhill and mowing down anything in his path. Excellent leg drive, has great center of gravity at 5'10", 220, extremely intelligent kid, showed and made some strides as a blocker and as a pass catcher. Ultimate leader for his team, really selfless kid. They had an offense there with head coach Mac Brown, with Sam Howell, the quarterback that could be in contention for a top 5 selection next year, and wide receivers Daz Newsome and De'Ami Brown with Michael Carter to be one of the most explosive offenses in the nation. So Denver goes 2 for 2, in our opinion, thus far, getting the number 9 best player on the board, Patrick Surtain, with the 9th overall pick, and the 22nd best player in the draft, Javonte Williams at pick 35. So that's a home run. They played it correctly by getting their running back in the second round, not reaching on that first-round pick or moving up to panic and get their guy. They stay patient, move up for a much cheaper price here in the second round, and get arguably the best running back on the board.
Aspect of the game of football, meaning you better have a little bit of both of it. You better have a lot of it. Javonte Williams Williams exudes that. Like I said before we even talked about this pick, this is a guy I would not want to play against. He plays with a nastiness that is uncommon, but definitely necessary.
And they struggled in that area enormously last year. They had the second worst first down rate in the run game last season of any team, so they addressed that. The Dolphins, who had a very good day yesterday, are up now on the clock. Their pick is in, and here they come. The Isley brothers are coming out here right now. This old heart of mine, gentlemen, has been broke 1,000 times. Rock and Roll Hall of Famers again. We're just a long field goal away where we're sitting right now.
And as we have Miami on the clock, the pick is in, folks. They did add some running back depth during the offseason, but I'm looking at the guard position where Robert Hunt has switched from tackle, the second-round pick from a year ago, and the center position. So if they can address that right now, I do like a lot of players such as Wyatt Davis, Trey Smith, Quinn Miners, Landon Dickerson, and Creed Humphrey. Of course, Jeremiah Wusu-Koromoa would be sensational as a roaming middle linebacker who has the opportunity to be like an Isaiah Wilson and line up in the slot sometimes. Other players that may be a fit include Baron Browning, Nicholas Bolton, Asante Samuel Jr., and of course the safety Trayvon Moehrig, who might be a bit of a reach considering that they had drafted Brandon Jones out of Texas a year ago in the 3rd round.
The new pick for the Miami Dolphins, Javon Holland.
They go ahead and add the Oregon safety, 26 on our big board, an excellent pick, Javon Holland, opposed to Brian Flores and the Miami Dolphins. So he'll go along with Brandon Jones. They have a very deep secondary there in Miami now, and this was a phenomenal pick.
2019 had 66 tackles and 4 picks before opting out of 2020. Lewis, let's take a look at Javon Holland.
Yeah, this is a guy who is a multi-positional player. He can play safety or play corner. It's just very, very smooth, very skilled. A guy who is excellent working in his pedal, has got good hits, very fluid closing ability, a good tackler. He's just the kind of guy that you would assume right now that a guy like Brian Flores is going to find multiple ways with which to deploy him. You know, you can send him on the blitz, you can match him up against tight ends, you can match him up against running backs, you can blitz him. There's just so many different things you can do with a player like this. And with a team like the Miami Dolphins that is defensive centric, that really emphasizes good fundamentals in the secondary, this is a good solid pick for him. You can see Brian Flores advocating for a guy like this.
9 interceptions over the 2 years they played, opted out. He's also an outstanding punt returner. He averaged 15.3 yards a return in 2019 on 16 returns. Is a 9 picks, 4 in 2019, 5 in 2018.
All right,
so there you have it, folks. He is a game breaker. We have the Miami Dolphins with the 3 picks they've taken so far, adding Jalen Waddle, 6th overall. Got Jalen Phillips, Miami defensive end, stays right at home in Miami with pick 18. And here with the 36th pick, Javon Holland adds some big-time athleticism, physicality, and versatility to that secondary in Brian Flores' defense. So think of a Patty Chung type player, perhaps a bit more top-end speed than Patty, but a very, very good athlete who has some return experience as Patty Chung did coming out of the same school as well. So with Philadelphia up on the clock, pick 37, it is in. So we will be getting you to that pick shortly as it comes in. But as we look at the board, that's going to be our first safety off the board today, Javon Holland in the draft. So we had him ranked as the 2nd best safety in the entire draft. The only player we had above him was Trayvon Moehrig, who should be going here shortly. And some of the team needs that the Eagles have include linebacker, cornerback, and the quarterback position. Of course, they have Jalen Hurts there at quarterback. I thought that they made a mistake by not taking Micah Parsons, going ahead and taking Devontae Smith, who's a phenomenal player. It's just we've seen them taking players like J.J. Arcega-Whiteside in the 2nd round 2 years ago in the draft, and last year taking Jalen Reagor in the 1st round. So once again, they continue to pour major assets into that wide receiver position. And some of the players that are surprisingly still on the board include Maury. This is the range that we should be seeing a guy like Richie Grant, Andre Sisco, potentially even a Jamar Johnson, Asante Samuel, Elijah Molden, Nicholas Bolton is a bit surprising to still be available. Our biggest surprise is definitely Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, Christian Barmore, and the centers and the guards here. We haven't seen a major run on the interior linemen on either side of the football. So we're seeing the skill positions coming off the board a bit more frequently than we have in years past. But we have seen the running back go here with Javonte Williams in the early second round. And we still have some quarterbacks that could be going today, and a guy like Sam Ellinger, Kyle Trask, Davis Mills, Kellen Mond could be hearing their names announced here today. And the pick is in, folks, and we're just getting back.
Here, I can tell you as we prepare for the Eagles pick to be announced in a moment that we have had a trade in the pick that follows. The Patriots have traded up at 38. We're about to get the Philadelphia Eagles pick at 37, and then it will be the Patriots, not the Bengals, who will pick after that. And announcing the Eagles pick is going to be a very familiar face and voice to everyone who watches ESPN or listens to ESPN radio. He is an Eagles legend, and he is a member of 2 Radio Halls of Fame. If that doesn't give it away, I'm not sure what will. That's Mike Golick making his way to the podium to announce the Eagles pick.
He's like the mayor of Cleveland.
He is. This is his hometown. Mike is from here, from Willowick, Ohio, and he's here to announce the Eagles pick.
Oh, keep going. I was going to sing. Always great to come back to my hometown, Cleveland rocks! Yeah! All right, now for the Philadelphia Eagles, after a fantastic move in the first round to move up to get Devontae Davis, they've got another great pick here. So with the 37th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Philadelphia Eagles select a guard from Alabama, Landon Dickerson. Fly, Eagles, fly.
Landon Dickerson, a transfer from Florida State, absolutely spectacular player, and the feel-good moment of the championship game when Nick Saban led him on the field for the final snap. The circumstances of that were that he had suffered another injury, and Lewis, the question on this player has not ever been the talent. It has always been the injury history.
Yeah, it sure has, but I'll tell you what, here in the top of the second round, he presents tremendous value for someone who has 5-position versatility. He can play anywhere along the offensive line. The people I talked to said, hey, look, we think this is a guy who, once we get him healthy 100%, he's going to be just fine. He's a mountain of a man, 6'5", 6'6", 330 plus. You watch him during the regular season. This guy was taking, but you see him right there. His punch, heavy-handed. He's the kind of guy in the run game can play in a gap scheme or a zone scheme. He finishes offensive line.
Landon Dickerson was our 12th overall player on the board. A fantastic job by the Eagles taking him there at pick 37. The former Florida State center can play anywhere on the offensive line. Of course, tore his ACL this past year. He finishes plays. He's mean. He's a Logan Mankins, Nick Mangold type. Wants to get down and beat you up, extremely physical. He's going to set the tempo there. Should play some guard with Jason Kelsey and then eventually take over that center position. So we have the Eagles taking Devontae Smith and Landon Dickerson, 2 players out of Alabama, national champions, and 2 very, very good picks. We had them ranked as the 4th overall player in Devontae Smith and the 12th overall player in Landon Dickerson. So great job thus far by the Eagles. 2 home runs to start this draft. And the Patriots, as they move up to pick 38, the pick is in, folks. The pick is in.
I thought he was going to go 3rd or 4th round. Yeah. So for Landon Dickerson, it takes one team.
Yeah.
You don't have to feel that you deserve to be there based on durability concerns. It takes one. It's great for Landon Dickerson to not fall that far.
Now, the thing you just want if you're Philadelphia is you want to keep your offensive line healthy. Look, as far as that offensive line room, they have had some absolute studs. They just can't keep them all on the field. That's what you have to have in order to really get this offense really humming along. You got to have all your people available. Yeah. Landon Dickerson, you're going to worry about it a little bit, but it's worth the gamble at this point in time.
Here comes Roger Goodell again. The Patriots traded up with the Bengals to this, the 38th spot in this draft. So it is New England that will be picking here. They got their...
And if the Patriots get Christian Barmore here, this is the steal of the draft.
Belichick goes now.
The Cincinnati Bengals have traded the 38th pick to the New England Patriots. With the 38th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New England Patriots select Christian Barmore, defensive tackle.
What a pick. Christian Barmore, a New England Patriot.
Defensive tackle. Booger rejoices as his position is finally represented. Christian Barmore is an incredibly good player, and he's young. He just finished his redshirt sophomore year with 8 sacks and 2 forced fumbles. He was the defensive MVP of the national championship game. That's back-to-back Alabama players for Belichick. It's also back-to-back Alabama picks we've just had here. But Booger, how about Barmore?
Well, I think he can be outstanding. Think of Ndamukong Suh, more of a power player than a speed guy. He's not Aaron Donald, but what he can do, he has capability to stop the run along the inside of the interior line of scrimmage, tackle to tackle. He can dominate. A mountain of a man, strong. On third down, he has pass rush ability, can get vertical and get on the edge. He fits in what they want to do in New England. When they go from 4-3 to 3-4, think Richard Seymour, think Jarvis Green, think players of that ilk that are that size. Bill loves big players. And what you have is a big athletic man and Christian Barmore who has pass rush capability.
They scheme versatile. When you think about that Belichick-Saban connection, if you think it doesn't matter, I think again, what's it, like 12 players now?
Yeah.
I think it is that he's from LSU to Alabama, that he's brought into the...
And folks, Barmore had 8 sacks last year, an interior pass rusher similar to a Dontarie Poe, 6'5", 320, very quick first step, has the bulk to shield you off once he beats you with that initial quickness, and he is mean. We saw in the college football playoff, absolutely dominant, enjoying every second of it. Former prep high school basketball player who was extremely sought after in the recruiting world, stuck to football, and it pays off here today. The New England Patriots get the steal of the draft thus far, with pick 38, Christian Barmore out of Alabama, joining his former quarterback, Mac Jones, the offensive and defensive MVPs of the college football playoffs. And wow, what a job by Bill Belichick, reloading, moving up to go get Christian Barmore with pick 38, our 10th best player on the board. Fantastic job. And as we have the Bears coming up with pick 39, we saw yesterday they moved up to get a new quarterback, Justin Fields, and let's see if they go ahead and add another weapon for him or get him some protection with the offensive line. Guy like Creed Humphrey would be an excellent fit here. They have lost some secondary players, so if they added a player like an Asante Samuel or a Trayvon Moorick, that would be an excellent fit to put back there with a guy like Eddie Jackson.
Hey, who's that? Good to see you, Bear Down. The Carolina Panthers have traded the 39th pick to the Chicago Bears. With the 39th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Chicago Bears select Tevin Jenkins, tackle, Oklahoma State.
A really good player. Tevin Jenkins is the first lineman from Oklahoma State drafted since Russell Okung in 2010. He was a full...
So we're not quite as high on Tevin Jenkins as many others are. Before I kick it back to ESPN, just wanted to let you guys know that we did have him a bit lower than many others. We had him as a third-round pick, pick 96 overall. Struggled with speed rushers, is fantastic in the run game, and if he gets his hands on you, his highlight reel blocking is fantastic. As people like to talk about his performance against Joseph Osai in Texas this season, he had a couple of highlight reel blocks where he did pancake him, but Joseph Osai also had 5 sacks that game, including the game winner in OT, had a sack, forced fumble recovery, and got Defensive Player of the Week against Jenkins. So as good as the highlights are, the consistency is not quite there yet for us to value this player at this pick. We had a couple other tackles ahead of him, including Samuel Cosme out of Texas, Dylan Radins out of North Dakota State, and Walker Little out of Stanford to go with Brady Christensen out of BYU, Jackson Carman, Jalen Mayfield, and then Jenkins would have been our next tackle on the board.
Thought could have been and maybe should have been a first-round draft choice.
Outstanding upper body strength. I think that's the thing you look at. Once he gets his hands on you, hey, Katie barred the door, it's over with. He's going to have to refine his technique a little bit, but when you look at the mentality of an offensive line, somebody you want to have with the demeanor up front, he has it all.
Look, Tevin Jenkins will play right tackle for them. Charles Leno will play left tackle. This is a football team that struggled on the edges. This is a football team that struggles up front, period, because they don't have the attitude that they need up there.
Yeah.
And the attitude to really get that offense going. You want Justin Fields to play, then take some pressure off him about being able to run the football. Matt Nagy knows this. Ryan Pace, the GM, knows this. They know their offensive line was a liability last year. They need attitude. Tevin Jenkins is going to need to provide that, not just in snippets, not like when he took Joseph Asai in that highlight right there and ran him up into the stands.
Every play.
They need that all the time because that is what's going to take them off and make them really be contenders in the North.
They're also a team with an air of desperation. So if you look at it, they trade up for a pick yesterday. They trade up for a pick today in round 2. That's what you do when your back is to the wall.
And with the Falcons on the board, some of the players I'm looking at with them, they allowed 293.6 passing yards per game. So secondary help definitely has to be on their list, as well as a pass rush. They haven't had a pass rush in quite some time. Grady Jarrett, probably their most productive pass rusher there on the interior. So they did lose Keanu Neal, the safety signed with the Dallas Cowboys, but they do have Deion Jones in the middle of that defense, extremely speedy. To go with Grady Jarrett in front of them. They've lost guys like Tack McKinley, and they've really struggled to find help on that edge position. So they've invested quite a bit in the offensive line the past few years, but still have some holes there. Of course, they addressed tight end with Kyle Pitts there in the first round, pick 4 overall. And they have Julio Jones, Russell Gage, and Calvin Ridley on the outside. So I wouldn't think that wide receiver is a pressing need here. But they did lose Todd Gurley. I'd be looking very, very hard at the running back position here. We really like Michael Carter, so it should be interesting. And the pick is in, folks.
Let them know they're our heroes. Let's go. USA. Okay, with the 40th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Atlanta Falcons select Richie Grant, defensive back.
So they get the safety out of UCF. We had Richie as the 37th best player on the big board. We had him as our number 1 strong safety. Excellent job, 3-time first team All-ACC for Richie Grant. He was an extremely productive player, stood out at the Senior Bowl. He will be 24 by the time the regular season starts, but he was the Thorpe Award finalist for the nation's top DB this past year, and he's extremely well-versed in one-on-one matchups versus tight ends, can pick up backs, and is extremely physical, loves to hit. Had 72 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 3 interceptions, and 2 forced fumbles a year ago. In his career, 290 tackles, 11.5 tackles for loss, and 10 interceptions. So think of a player such as Malcolm Jenkins, a guy in the center of your defense that is very physical, is the heart and soul of your team, a leader out there, and is extremely well-versed. He can do a little bit of everything. You can send him on some blitzes. He can help come up in the run game, and he can, of course, help. And his biggest asset is going to be defending the pass deep down the field as a center fielder. So good pick there for the Falcons. I would have gone with Trayvon Moehrig there, but Richie Grant was our 3rd best safety on the board and will be the 2nd one off the board. So the Falcons go ahead and take Kyle Pitts in the 1st, move down, take Richie Grant here in the 2nd round. And as we have the Lions on the clock, the pick is in, folks. They addressed the tackle position in the 1st round, taking Penei Sewell, and they do have some holes at the wide receiver position as they let Kenny Golladay walk. Marvin Jones signed with the Jacksonville Jaguars, and for new quarterback Jared Goff, you have to be thinking they have addressed the tight end position. They have addressed now the offensive line, although that could be a sticking point with a guy like Creed Humphrey. Their defense is actually looking relatively good. So if you're looking at the wide receiver position, we have players such as Tylan Wallace, De'Ami Brown, Terrace Marshall Jr., Rondale Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Seth Williams as the best players available. The one that really stands out at this point is Tylan Wallace out of Oklahoma State. We saw his teammate go a couple picks ago, Tevin Jenkins, and this is the area where we would expect a player like Tylan Wallace to go. Of course, De'Ami Brown out of North Carolina, big-time deep threat, averaged over 20 yards per catch as both in his final 2 years, where he went over 1,000 yards both years. Fantastic deep threat. So we'll see what the Lions are going to do here. well stocked at the running back position over the past few years in the draft. They could address linebacker position, of course, with a player like Wusu Koromoa, who is our best player available, still left on the board. They took Jeffrey Okuda, the 3rd overall pick a year ago, the cornerback out of Ohio State. He didn't play quite up to expectations as a rookie, but it was very difficult with the offseason due to the setbacks and not having the hands-on type training that previous rookie classes have had, as well as a preseason. So we should see a big jump for Jeffrey Okuda this year. Other players we have first-round grades on that are still on the board, of course, Asante Samuel, Trayvon Morig, Nicholas Bolton, Joseph Osai, and Azeez Ojulari. Humphrey, Wyatt Davis, Samuel Cosme, Tylan Wallace, Michael Carter, and that rounds it out. So with the pick in, we have the Lions coming up to the board. They were 5-11 last year, which was last in the NFC North. They have 5 more picks after this one. And of course, they have a new head coach with Dan Campbell. They added running back Jamal Williams, Michael Brockers from the Rams, to go with former teammate Jared Goff. So the team that has the most seasons without a playoff win is the Cincinnati Bengals, 30 straight years without a playoff win. And the second would be the Detroit Lions with 29 straight years. So when we're looking at the team needs of the Lions, we're looking at wide receiver, the defensive line, the linebacking room, and the secondary. Based on value, we'd be looking and suggesting a Wusu Koromoa, Asante Samuel Jr., Trayvon Morig, Creed Humphrey, Azeez Ojulari, Joseph Osai, Wyatt Davis. Any of those players would be your best bet as far as value at this point in the draft. So with the pick in, we're going to send this one over to Raj and
football in a physical manner. Let's see what they've chosen to do here. In round 2, the commissioner, Roger Goodell, is making his way to the front of the stage to announce the Lions' 2nd round pick. This is pick number 41 in the 2021 draft, and here is the commissioner.
With the 41st pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Detroit Lions select Levi Onwuzurike, defensive tackle.
This was a bit too early. Levi Onwuzurike from Washington under former defensive coordinator PK, who's now at Texas. He opted out of this season. We saw his teammate Joe Tryon go the end of the 1st round of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Levi was first team All Pac-12 in 2019, 6'3", 295 pounds. We had him a bit further down the board, but this is going to be the second D tackle off the board here today.
Good explosiveness at the snap, strong hands, immediate leverage advantage for Onwuzurike. Disruptive, I thought, against the run at the point and in lateral pursuit. Never really post the sack numbers that you prefer to see with someone with his size and his overall physicality and his overall ability, but he showed flashes in that area with the Huskies. His motor's good. I think if he's coached up properly, Book, instead of just being disruptive, finish and get more sacks along the interior.
So I think he's the guy automatically you can put it to one technique and say, okay, use that athletic ability to get upfield. Meanwhile, you give him time to develop as a 3 technique that can rush the passer. When you play that 3 technique, you got to be Grady Jarrett. You got to be Aaron Donald to get to the quarterback. He's not there yet, but with the explosiveness, the first step, the athletic.
And that's some of the reasons why we had him as the 100th overall best player on the board. A guy like Milton Williams is definitely somebody we had above him. Aleem McNeil, Marvin Wilson, Tyler Shelvin, multiple players at this position. The reason being the inconsistency out of Levi. All the talent's there, just extremely inconsistent production. And at 295 pounds, not quite as big as what we'd be looking for at the 1 technique. We'll see how it turns out. The Lions, of course, with Dan Campbell, new head coach, took Penei Sewell, and now they address the opposite side of that line. And the Miami Dolphins pick is in, pick 42 here. And I think they should be looking at the running back position. Of course, they have many other holes to fill, but they've done a great job thus far in the draft, and let's see what they do here.
Pick at number 42.
With the 42nd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Liam Eichenberg, tackle, Notre Dame.
My apologies, it is the Dolphins picking there at...
So this is an interesting pick. He was a consensus All-American out of Notre Dame this year. They had a fantastic offensive line. We had Liam Eichenberg ranked as 104th best player. He was a 2020 ACC Jacobs Blocking Trophy Award winner for their top O-lineman.
Continue to work in a variety of different ways, in this case on their offensive line.
Yeah, look, they want to make sure that Tua Tagovailoa is comfortable and make sure that he is protected. And Eichenberg, look, this is someone, again, he played solid football on the left side for Notre Dame, but he doesn't have quick enough feet to really traditionally protect a passer's blind side. Now, the interesting thing about that is Tua is left-handed. So he's going to, if he does play right tackle, he's still going to be protecting the passer's blind side. He's just going to have to make sure he works on his pass sense and make sure they are consistent, because he doesn't have the foot speed to match up against the better pass rush in the NFL.
And in worst case, they can move him inside the guard because he doesn't have the athletic ability to go outside.
All right, so you see the Dolphins have been awfully busy with a lot of names that you know. A good start to this 2021 draft for the Miami Dolphins. The Las Vegas Raiders, always a fascinating team to follow, have traded up. They will be choosing next at 43 in this 2021 draft as we continue next on ESPN.
So if I had to guess on the Raiders trading up here, just shot in the dark, it's going to be for a pass rusher. So they've really tried to focus on adding somebody like that. I'm looking at the board here, and it's interesting to me because Aleem McNeil is a guy that stands out, as well as Milton Williams, two athletic freaks that could really add some versatility to that team. However, you have a player like Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame. Of course, Mike Mayock has very, very strong ties to Notre Dame, and that would be an excellent pick for them since they need a lot of help on the defensive side of the ball. And we saw the Raiders reach a little bit yesterday, taking Alex Leatherwood, the left tackle out of Alabama, at 17 overall. And we actually had him listed as the 45th best player. So hopefully they're getting a player here that isn't going to be a reach. This has been something that the Raiders have been extremely guilty of the past few seasons. And let's hope that they get this one right as they move up to take this pick. And they did lose Devontae Booker in free agency. However, I don't think they should be in a position to address the running back position here. Lots of talent available, and they need to make the right pick by taking the best player available here. And there's still a few players that are available with the first round grade for us. So let's hope that this isn't a third straight player that we have listed in the 100s. And the pick is in, and we will be right back with you. We're going to leave you with some ESPN as we straighten things out and take a look into the future. The 8-8 Raiders on the clock with 6 picks left to go in their draft. Many needs to address, and let's see which way they go.
I'm looking forward to going to live concerts,
sports events, graduation,
going out with friends.
It's not about me.
It's not about me. It's about protecting the people I care about.
To protect my community. I just want to do my part. Even though I'm young and healthy,
I know it's the right thing to do. Take your shot. Protect your family and your friends.
Don't hesitate. Vaccinate.
Every Sunday night, it's baseball for all of us.
I am so excited. Let's play two. Glaze out and makes the catch. Hey!
See ya. Give us Sunday Night Baseball. Mets, Phillies, Sunday at 7 on ESPN. Telecast presented by Taco Bell.
Welcome back to the 2021 NFL Draft, presented by Courtyard by Marriott.
We are back in Cleveland. We've had 10 picks announced tonight. We've had 4 trades already tonight. There were 9 trades total on Friday night, all of last year. So the wheeling and dealing is coming fast and furious. The Raiders have traded up to this spot, and here comes the commissioner.
The San Francisco 49ers have traded the 43rd pick to the Las Vegas Raiders. With the 43rd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select Trayvon Merrick, defensive back.
This was a phenomenal pick. The Raiders get one right for a change, folks. They come up and get the #1 safety off the board, Trayvon Merrick, out of TCU, our 16th best player, the 2020 Thorpe Award winner as the nation's top defensive back. We saw him fall. What a pick. Fantastic job.
You look at Trayvon Merrick, a guy who flat out has the range that you need in today's NFL, the way it's played. Jonathan Abram has not been able to stay healthy. It was a neat area in the deep patrol at that safety spot. You think about even this past year, wasn't his best year 2019 was, but he had noteworthy performances against Oklahoma, had 3 pass breakups against the Sooners. He had against Oklahoma State a key game-saving interception in the final minutes of that game. He had an outstanding game against West Virginia with 10 stops. That was a season high, had 1 tackle for loss in that game. And as I say, in 2019, he's breaking up passes. He intercepted 4. He's all over the field. He provides leadership. He provides knowledge. He provides passion. The Raiders needed a player at this spot. If they'd have taken him at 17 in the first round, I wouldn't have been critical of that pick. I would have thought it made sense. So obviously here, Mike Mayock and John Gruden.
And we're on the same page with that one with Mel Kiper. We had him as the 16th best player. You take him at 17 over who they took there, Alex Leatherwood, who we had as the 46th best value. So now you flip-flop that, and then had you had taken Trayvon in the first round at 17, and you got Alex Leatherwood here, that's a solid draft. So funny how things turned out. The 17th pick didn't necessarily make sense as far as value, did make sense as far as the player. We come back second round and get a player that we would have liked at that first round grade, that first round pick, and you call it a wash. They're having a good draft. That's a good way to save it, move up, get the best safety off the board, the Thorpe Award winner. Excellent job. Trayvon Merrick out of TCU, the Corpus Christi product. They're celebrating in Bulverde, Texas today. What a great job with that pick. And we have Drew Pearson coming out to announce the Cowboys pick. I'd be looking at Asante Samuel Jr. here, Andre Sisco, Elijah Molden, Owusu Koromoa, Nicholas Bolton, Joseph Osai, Aziz Ojulari, Aleem McNeil.
I am honored to be
Wyatt
here to
Davis,
represent the Dallas
Humphrey,
Cowboys and have this opportunity to
and
announce
let's see what the Cowboys do.
the 44th pick in the second round. I'm also honored to be here in Cleveland, Ohio, home of one of the all-time greatest franchises in NFL football history. And I stand here tonight on the shoulders of many great Cleveland Brown football players like Jim Brown, Leroy Kelly, Bobby Mitchell, Gene Hickerson, John Woolen, Gary Collins, Dr. Frank Ryan, and the great number 42, Paul Warfield. As a kid growing up, the Cleveland Browns were one of my favorite franchises, favorite teams I supported. However, on behalf of the 5-time world champion Dallas Cowboys, Hall of Fame owner Mr. Jerry Jones, Miss Jean Jones and the Jones family, head coach Mike McCarthy, all those players that played before me, with me, and after me, and of course, to Cowboy Nation. With the second pick in the 44th round, 44th pick in the second round, the Dallas Cowboys select defensive back from Kentucky, Kelvin Joseph.
All right, they should let Drew Pearson announce all the...
Wow, so that's a bit of an overpick for us. Kelvin Joseph, former transfer out of LSU, goes to Kentucky, 25 tackles, 4 interceptions, 5 passes defense this past year. We did not have a high grade on him comparatively to where he's going here. We actually had him listed all the way down as our 107th best player overall.
The high school level, elite player in the state of Louisiana, recruited by Alabama, Florida, Auburn. Everybody wanted him. goes to LSU, leads LSU go to Kentucky in 2019, sat out that year, and then in 2020, this past year was a third-year sophomore, started 9 games, opted out late, but he had 4 picks. He had that pick 6 against Tennessee, interception against Georgia, an interception against Mississippi State, and that interception against Alabama and Mac Jones, kid who has that 6'1", 195 pounds, the lengthy one, 4.35 speed, good arm length. I think this is a kid had a little inconsistency in coverage at times, but overall, second-round pick. If he stays focused on the job at hand, Kelvin Joseph has a chance to be a really good corner.
Again, you see all the things that you talk about as far as can you count on him, from a character standpoint. That's why a guy like this falls in the second round, because he has tremendous cover skills. He's tough. He's not scared. He will challenge you down the football field. You can send him off the corner on those boundary corner fire blitzes, and he will smack your quarterback if he's not looking. This is why guys fall into the second round like this. You just don't know if you can count on him because he has the skill.
All right, we are up to the 45th pick in this draft.
So not a big fan of that pick. Definitely had many other corners far above him. Taking him over Elijah Molden will definitely prove, in my opinion, based on my evaluations, to be a mistake. So Jacksonville coming in here, pick 45. Goodell is on the podium.
The Jacksonville Jaguars select Walker Little.
Big Walker
tackle,
Little out of Stanford. What a pick. We had
Walker. Story. His grandfather and his uncle both played in the league, and there was a
Walker
time when he
as our
projected to be potentially the highest graded tackle in this class. But then, unfortunately, he gets hurt the first week of 2019, opts out of 2020. So, Mel, he hasn't played in 2 years.
He hasn't played 2 years, but you have to go back to that Northwestern game when he got hurt. He was hanging in there doing a good job. 2018, he was a solid player. He's 6'7", 322 pounds. He's got really good feet, really nimble, kid who moves well, but he hurt 29, first game of 2019, opts out this year to basically train, get that knee back to full strength.
So this is a player that all of his tape stands out, was the #1 tackle coming out of high school, 5-star recruit. The same recruiting class, Davis Mills, who's also in this draft class, could be going. Hearing his name called tonight, both of them had very similar careers, very little on tape, injury prone. The coronavirus shortened the Pac-12 season. He did not even play this past year. But what we have seen of Walker Little has been spectacular. The measurables are insane. The athleticism is insane. Truly an intelligent kid, smart, football IQ, has been working extremely hard. Obviously, a guy that was recruited by Urban Meyer coming out of high school, he gets his guy, the former 5-star recruit, left tackle, Walker Little. We had him as our 46th best player on the board, our 8th best tackle on the board, and he comes off the board here at 46. So excellent job there. The Jacksonville Jaguars continue to have a wonderful draft here. The only pick that we're not too high on was Travis Etienne in the first round, but obviously he will be a fit as a dual threat running back who can catch prolifically out of the backfield. 48 catches just a year ago, his final year in college with their quarterback, Travis Lawrence. So pick 46, the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and the pick is in, and we'll go to the podium.
On the board, Tyson Campbell, if he can keep it all together and maximize that ability, yes, this is a home run draft.
All right, here we go again. Cincinnati has made its pick last night. They took Jamar Chase at the top of the draft, opting not to take an offensive lineman, which Joe Burrow could certainly use. Let's see what direction the Bengals choose to go here in round 2. Here comes the commissioner.
The NFL's Inspire Change initiative showcases how the NFL family works together to reduce barriers to opportunity and create positive change in communities across America. Cincinnati native Means Cameron is a graduate of Program Mortar, supported by the Bengals' local Inspire Change efforts that helps minority entrepreneurs build a comprehensive skill set. From there, Means built his own successful business, Black-owned, and is using his growing business to create a brand that transcends race, generation, and location. Congratulations, Means. Please do us the honor of announcing your Cincinnati Bengals pick. I got you. Come on, bud. You come with me.
Wow. Cincinnati, it's our year. Black-owned boys in the building. Who they? And with the 46th pick in the 2020
2021 NFL Draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Jackson Carman, tackle, Clemson. Let's get it.
Oh, so they do get it. That's exactly what they needed to do. This is the man who protected the blind side for Trevor Lawrence. Now he'll do.
Second team all ACC this past year, Jackson Carman. We have him ranked as the 78th best player on the board. With the way the tackles are flying off the board, he would be the fourth best player we have at the tackle position. Had 27 career starts protecting the blind side of Trevor Lawrence. Played elite level competition. Has all the measurables you're looking for. Big frame, good feet. Just not as explosive or nasty as what we'd be looking for. And not that elite athleticism, being able to get downfield.
Spot for him on your offensive line. If it's not tackle, you move him inside the guard because they are great movement skills for a man that size.
Here's the thing, though. I think you would like playing against him. Why, though? Because he plays up on his toes and he's a little bit of a leaner, right? So he's got heavy hands. He will smack the crap out of you with those hands in that punch. But he gets up on his toes because when you watch him run, look at him run. I mean, he's a great athlete. Yeah. I mean, he's a prancer now. It's just that he plays that way when he's pass setting, and then he starts leaning, and guys like you who play with great leverage and have quick hands, they're by him. So they're going to have to get him to sit down, play with some power, play with some leverage, and they've got something.
So he protected one first overall pick in college, and now he will protect another first overall pick as he moves on to the NFL. And we're moving fast and furious through round two. It's the draft on ESPN.
With the Chargers on the board, we're moving very quickly here through this second round. We have San Francisco up after them, as well as the Arizona Cardinals after that. The Cardinals had a great pick yesterday in the first round, adding Zaven Collins. The 49ers, of course, getting Trey Lance there with pick 3. And as we continue to look at our big board, we have seen a lot of the talent that we're extremely high on coming off rather quickly. At the running back position, the best player available we have there is Michael Carter, followed up by Jared Patterson and Chuba Hubbard. At the fullback position, it's Tommy Tremble and Ben Mason. At wide receiver, Tylan Wallace, De'Ami Brown, Terrace Marshall, Rondale Moore, Amon-Ra St. Brown, all still available. All have second-round grades. At tight end, we have Patty Fryermuth and Brevin Jordan with second-round grades. At the tackle position, Samuel Cosme, Dylan Radins. We've been seeing a lot of players getting picked today as Walker Little just came off the board and Jackson Carman. We have Brady Christensen still available and Jalen Mayfield. LaShawn Slater went exactly where we had him listed, 13th yesterday. And Wyatt Davis is the best available guard we have left on the board, followed up by big Canadian Quinn Miners. Really showed out the Wisconsin Whitewater product at the Senior Bowl, and former 5-star recruit Trey Smith out of Tennessee. We also have a second-round grade on Ben Cleveland, so you could see him going today. We had a first-round grade on Creed Humphrey, so you should be expecting to hear Creed Humphrey going anytime soon here. And Jonathan Cooper out of Ohio State, we're much higher on him than what we've seen listed publicly with many other vendors. Cooper really stood out in big-time games. The production as far as stats didn't stand out, but his push on the pocket and consistent pass rush were excellent. So Milton Williams, very similar to Adonta Repo, athletic freak, dominated at Louisiana Tech the second half of the season. So Milton Williams, along with Aleem McNeil, are two players that really stand out on that defensive line as second-round picks. Marvin Wilson out of Florida State would have been a top 10 pick, top 20 pick to be safe a year ago had he come out. It's been a mess since Jimbo Fisher left Florida State, as evidenced by Joshua Kando, also potentially being a 4 or 5-star recruit coming out of high school and potentially going undrafted. So we'll see how it all unfolds. We had Levi Onwuzurike, our 100th best prospect, come off the board here early in the second round, which was a bit of a surprise, while we still at the outside linebacker position have most of our talent available. We have Owusu Koromoa, Joseph Osai, Azeez Ojulari, Jabril Cox, all available. Joe Tryon went 32 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and an excellent pick there. So lots of linebackers still floating as we start to see the safeties coming off the board. And the pick is in for the Chargers. I would go offensive line here. He did address the position yesterday with Slater, but Cosme, Dylan Radins, Creed Humphrey, Wyatt Davis, Trey Smith, all make sense here.
the NFL.
So as we go to the podium, folks, and it's a beautiful sunny day, Hank Bauer, the Chargers running back from 77 to 82 here with
But it's time to bolt up. With the 47th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Chargers select Asante Samuel Jr., DB, Florida State.
What a pick. Asante Samuel Jr., our final first-round cornerback, graded off the board, the 18th best player overall, 2020 first team All-ACC, his dad, a multiple-time Super Bowl champion, Pro Bowler for the New England Patriots and
Philadelphia. Justin Herbert's on right now. They got Rashawn Slater to protect that blind side, be the left tackle. Now you add an outstanding corner. He's not limited to the slot. Don't believe that. He can play anywhere in that secondary, that corner, match up in coverage. Feisty kid, tremendous instincts. I'll tell you, he locates the ball in coverage. He reads that quarterback's eyes. He anticipates. He has that burst. This kid will tackle in space. He's aggressive. I love Asante. I've said it for 2 days. I mentioned him yesterday. Elijah Moore, Asante Samuel, those two guys I talked about a lot. The Chargers with pick 47. I personally think he's a better overall player right now than Tyson Campbell is. Tyson Campbell may have great upside, great length. I want Asante Samuel on my team.
You know, Mel, there are those corners in the NFL that have ball skills. They can play man-to-man coverage and locking on the man, but at the same time, they can see the quarterback. They're always going to have their eyes on the ball. They believe that when the ball is in the air.
So some of the guys that we've seen in the past few years, Asante Samuel Jr. Reminds me very similarly to how I had a player prospect graded a year ago, Antoine Winfield Jr. of the Super Bowl champion winning Tampa Bay Buccaneers, of course, infamous now for giving the peace sign to Tyreek Hill, who had waved him bye-bye earlier in their matchup. But once in the Super Bowl, they were able to make the adjustments and shut them down. We've seen a big run of NFL players' sons doing extremely well in the NFL. So a guy like J.C. Horn, going 8th overall to Carolina. His father was Joe Horn, former Pro Bowl wide receiver for the Saints. We've seen now Asante Samuel Jr. being drafted. His father, of course, an all-pro player in the secondary. We've seen Patrick Surtain Jr. going 9th overall to the Denver Broncos, the son of Patrick Surtain, former all-pro for the Miami Dolphins. So the second generation of family coming into the NFL looking very strong. All of these players have done extremely well at the next level when given an opportunity, and I think that Asante Samuel is going to follow up in that same realm. Now, when we look at Mel's best available, Mel Kiper has Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Terrace Marshall Jr., Dwayne Eskridge, Azeez Ojulari, and De'Ami Brown as the top 5. We're much lower on Eskridge. We have him ranked as we glide over to the wide receiver position. We have Dwayne Eskridge ranked as the 170th best player overall, but we do like the other players on his board. We also have Owusu-Koramoah as the best player available. We thought he would be a surefire first-round pick. We're seeing even worse than Miles Jack type slipping here. And this is a player that should be coming off the board soon, would be a fit with the San Francisco 49ers.
Some concerns about focus, okay, on the job at hand. We talked about that. That's why some of these guys have dropped down a little further than maybe their production suggests.
But who are you most surprised is still there? Of all the players that Mel just pointed out or anybody else, who really jumps off the page at you when you say, I can't believe that player is still available?
Ojulari, because I think he's the best pass rusher in this draft. Now, he's in a hole because he's a 3-4 outside linebacker unless you're going to put him on the open side as a 4-3 defensive end. But when you're looking for a pass rusher in...
And as we noted yesterday, the reason that Ojulari is falling down draft boards is due to a medical concern, a degenerative knee injury. Of course, we don't have the medicals. We did have Ojulari listed as a first-round pick. As we glide over and take a look at him, we have him ranked as the 28th best player on the board. Joseph Osai as the 25th best player on the board. And, of course, Owusu-Koramoah there at 7.
Their pick, and the commissioner is making his way to announce it. They were the ones who sort of got this party started last night with a bang as they selected Trey Lance and not Mac Jones at number 3. Let's see who they've selected in round 2.
With the 48th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the San Francisco 49ers select Aaron Banks, guard.
So another Notre Dame offensive lineman. We saw a tackle Liam Eichenberg go a bit earlier. Now they take the guard on the inside of him. Aaron Banks, a 2020 first-team AP All-American. As I said, that Notre Dame offensive line was fantastic this past year. He is 6'5", 330. Definitely going to add a good amount of versatility inside to Trent Williams on that front for the San Francisco 49ers, looking to protect their prized asset, Trey Lance.
Gainers got a lot of help from Aaron Banks, offensive lineman a week against Clemson in early November. Irish in that game accumulated with 518 total yards of offense. He's got some versatility as well, not just locked into being a guard at the pro level. Aaron Banks, I thought, was a solid second-round pick. There's no reach here, not a steal. It's about where he was projected to go.
If somebody moves him from the guard position, tell him to come see me, because as a defensive lineman, I would not want to see this man. Technically, fundamentally sound as a guard. And when you talk about that zone scheme, what they're going to do coming off, it's a one-cut scheme. One cut downhill. It's going to be hard for defensive linemen and linebackers to find the ball around Aaron Banks. He is as good a guard as we've seen in this draft, Brady.
Look, this is the kind of guy that Kyle Shanahan likes. You know,
yes.
they coach up offensive linemen as well as anyone. They have a very athletic offensive line. They have some of the toughest running backs in the NFL. Kyle talks about the fact that to play running back in the NFL, you really have to be maybe not wired so right up top, because you take an absolute, rear end kicking play after play after play. But they are building this football team. Hey, I love the philosophy that they use to build this football team. They know you have to take care of the lines. You know that they have to be very tough. They get the right kind of players from a DNA perspective. So San Francisco, everybody thinks that they're going to be Super Bowl contenders in the NFC, despite how many injuries they had last year and how short they fell of expectations. This is why.
Lewis, as a team builder, I think you will find this interesting. We are detecting a trend. 4 of the 5 teams that picked a first-round quarterback have now drafted an offensive lineman at some point in this draft. The Niners, the Jets, the Jaguars, and the Bears.
Yeah, it just makes sense. And look, I know we live in a fantasy football world, a stats-driven world. We like to see the flash and the dash, and like to see the ball in the air, and like to see people catching touchdowns and doing dances. But we all know this, you don't ever get to that point unless you take care of these positions, man. And it really is. Look, offensive line play is the single most critical thing that you can have, that you have to have to win in the NFL. And I would say this, outside of the head coach, offensive line coaching is the most important position on a coaching staff that you have to fill. It absolutely is. So these kind of picks right here, they are absolutely foundational picks.
The Arizona Cardinals have made their selection, and that will be announced here, Arizona.
And the way that they're doing things today is having a representative, if possible, make the pick for the team. Cardinals right tackle Kelvin Beachum here to make the pick on behalf of Arizona with pick 49.
Draft. The Arizona Cardinals select Rondale Moore, receiver, Purdue.
Rondale Moore, 5'7", over 1,600 yards as a true freshman out of Purdue. Honorable mention, all Big Ten this past year. 5'7". This is the fastest burner in the draft. Reminds me of Tyreek Hill more than anybody in this draft, including Jalen Waddle, who went 6th overall.
Explosiveness. The key to this pick is going to be, can we have creative ways to get him the football? You're not going to line him up outside and say, run the route free. No. Think about Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle. We want to find ways to get the football in their hands so they can make plays. The NFL now is about speed and space. This is a guy with his explosiveness, his strength, his legs are built like little tree trunks. It's going to be tough to bring him down. Then you can develop him as a route runner in this slot. But the main thing early on, Mel, is get the football in his hands so he can be a playmaker for your
Rondale Moore took the college football world by storm as a true freshman. And it was in 2018 against Ohio State. He had 12 receptions for 170 yards, 2 touchdowns in that game. All-purpose yards that year were 2,200. He had 114 catches. He looked a little quicker as a freshman. Got a little heavier, lost a little of that explosiveness, had the injury. He was limited to 4 games because of injury in 2019. In 3 games this year, he only averaged 7 a catch with 35 receptions. But in 2018, he looked spectacular. I think if he can drop maybe a little weight, get a little bit of quickness back, that explosiveness, because as a freshman, true freshman in 2018, nobody could get their hands on him, number one. And when he was in space and he got a tackle in front, he'd run you over. Yeah. So Rondale Moore is a low center of gravity, like you said, the ball in his hands. He was phenomenal. I thought he didn't maintain that tremendous level throughout the last 2 seasons, and for that reason, he's a second-round pick, maybe not a late one.
Another player he might remind you of is Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson was the 49th pick in the 2008 draft, and now Rondell Moore is the 49th pick in 2021. We are rolling along at warp speed. It's the second round of the NFL Draft on ESPN.
And folks, thank you for joining us. It's always a great time. Of course, we're roughing it a little bit by bringing you the live feed as I go through my draft big board. We were going to have some guests today. Unfortunately, due to the hurricane weather here in Texas, we were unable to get together to do so. So I do appreciate you hanging out with me here for rounds 2 and 3. Lots of stuff happening today. We have the New York Giants on the clock here with pick 50. They went 6-10 last year. They picked up an additional first-round pick by trading down from pick 11 with the Chicago Bears, who moved up to get Justin Fields. They moved down to pick 20, get Kadarius Toney, a fantastic slot receiver with excellent return ability. Going to help out in the punt return and kick return game. And now the Giants, with pick number 50, can address the best player available. Of course, they have Daniel Jones. They have the returning Saquon Barkley. The wide receiver position, they added Kenny Golladay to go with Darius Slayton. And they have Sterling Shepard along with Kadarius Toney. At the tight end position, of course, Evan Ingram. A Patty Freiermuth wouldn't hurt. Offensive line help wouldn't hurt. As a right tackle right now, they're starting Nate Solder. So a guy like Sam Cosmi, 6'7", similar build to his Solder when he was coming out of Colorado, would be a nice fit here. Other players that stand out, of course, Creed Humphrey at center, Wyatt Davis at guard. Anytime you can get a talent like Milton Williams, Aleem McNeil, it makes sense on that defensive line. Marvin Wilson would make sense, as would Joseph Osai, would be the perfect fit for the New York Giants. Of course, the best player available, we continue to harp on this same name, is Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, and also at that middle linebacker position, Nicholas Bolton and Baron Browning should be in the conversation here. Elijah Molden absolutely stands out. We've seen a lot of corners going. The value on the cornerback position has been at a premium based on the way the passing evolution has changed in the NFL. Elijah Molden, our 59th best player available, is our best corner left available now that Asante Samuel Jr. has been selected by the Chargers. So the Giants go 6-10 last year. Definitely an ugly division there in the NFC East. And we've seen the Dallas Cowboys make a couple of questionable moves here, drafting Kelvin Joseph. And we'll see what happens with the draft the rest of the way. It looks like the Eagles are off to a very good start. They traded up to get Devontae Smith yesterday. Went ahead, added center Landon Dickerson, who would be in play for a team like the Giants. So you could be looking at a Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma with a pick like this. Will Hernandez, former first-round, second-round pick out of UTEP, hasn't exactly panned out at the left guard position for them. So the interior of the line, as well as that right tackle position, after taking Anthony Thomas a year ago, 4th overall, looks like it may be their ticket to success. At the same time, if you're looking at the running back position, we do have value there available with Michael Carter as our 32nd best player available here at pick 50. Not that that's a pressing need. They did lose Wayne Gallman, a free agency. Of course, Saquon Barkley will be back healthy. But if you wanted to supplement him with a little bit of help rather than the Dion Lewis, Devontae Freeman, whoever you can insert name and fill in off the street here with Saquon out, might be nice to supplement him with a tremendous back, somebody that can help out, that you can spell him with in a Michael Carter. However, most likely that'll be a later round pick, a guy like Javian Hawkins, maybe 4th, 5th round tomorrow, rather than putting all this capital into a position that they've already spent quite a bit on. So I'd be looking here at the offensive line. Based on value, of course, we have a couple players ranked in that first round grade. If you were solely going off the big board of who is the best player available, that would be the linebacker out of Notre Dame. So as we see the sun setting down at the draft, we have Adam Schefter here, and let's go to Adam.
Had traded back in a draft, and now he's done it twice in each of the first 2 rounds, last night and again tonight. The Giants now are scheduled to have double picks in rounds 1, 3, and 4 next year in a draft where a lot of teams are coveting picks, but they still need some pass rush help tonight, Greeny.
All right, so we'll see if that's the direction that they choose to go. I see we're about to get the pick here. Darius Slayton is making his way up to announce the pick for the G-Man.
With the 50th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the New York Giants select Azeez Ojulari.
So the Giants go ahead and take Azeez Ojulari, a perfect fit, first-round grade. We had him as the 25th best player available. We had him 28th best player available. We had him slightly below Joseph Osai, second team all SEC. Azeez Ojulari, we thought he would have been a first-round pick, 6'3", 240, 8.5 sacks, 4 forced fumbles last year, 31 tackles, 12.5 for loss. As you heard Booger McFarland say earlier, he believes this is the best pass rusher in the draft.
To get by the tackle, then the most important thing to finish. No one in this draft has a better get off, move, finish than Ojulari. He's a playmaker, a guy. You can line him up as a 3-4 outside linebacker, or you can put him on the open side as a 4-3 in. Granted, he can bend. Look at him, the ankle bend, the knee bend, the hip bend. He's the total package. Some people were worried about the knee injury. I get it, Mel, but as a 3-4 outside linebacker, a playmaker, rush, you can even drop him in the coverage. I think he's the best pass rusher in this draft, and I think they got a steal where they got him in round 2.
Yeah, you think about the sack total, 8.5, 6.5 sacks the last 6 games. So he really came on strong at 6'2 1/4, 249 pounds, ran 4.62, strong kid, motivated kid. You mentioned it. He can't drop and cover.
Yes.
He can't play with his hand on the ground. He can't play in space. Azeez Ojulari only dropped to the second round because of concerns about the knee. And that was a high school injury.
Well, I can tell you this. They need him to produce because they were last in pass rush win rate last year, and they need some juice off the edge. But Patrick Graham is a heck of a defensive coordinator. A heck of a defensive coordinator. He had that team playing very well in the latter part of the season, and quite honestly, at different parts throughout the entire season. Azeez is going to have to produce for them. They have not been able to get the juice off the edge that they need. And you know, in the NFC, at some point in time, if you want to be a contender, you have to sack the quarterbacks in that division, in that conference, and they haven't been able to do that. Azeez is going to have to produce.
That pick is a steal. Our predictor says there was only a 14% chance that he would still be available at pick number 50. So the Giants get their man. We stay in the division. The Washington football team is on the board. They went defense.
So we have the football team coming up to make their pick. 7-9 last year, snuck into the playoffs, and Monty Coleman, a 3-time Super Bowl champion, is here with the pick.
21 NFL Draft. The Washington football team selects Samuel Cosmi.
The big Texas tackle. Samuel Cosmi, 6'7", 310, athletic freak, needs a bigger base, but the man from Humble, Texas, great job. He will be with the Washington football team.
He was ranked the 195th best player in the state, and now he is a second-round pick in the NFL Draft.
Was a right tackle, Greeny, and then he moved to left tackle his last 2 years, and he got this Longhorn offense this past season, averaged with 42 points a game, second best in the Big 12. Led the team with 25 knockdown blocks. Some say, yeah, he's a little soft. He doesn't play to the level of all that talent. Technique and footwork, needed to excel as a flash blocker. He has. He gets caught leaning, so I think he's got to be paying a little more attention to detail. I think when you look at him, noted for his pass blocking prowess, but he made some nice run blocks during the course of each game I watched. One tape, like I said, some were critical of him, not maxwell, because his talent, his skill set, his numbers, his physical numbers were that of a first-round pick. But that, like I say, that just, there's times where he's a little off balance. There's times where, you know, he'd be like, say, pay a little more attention to detail, Lou.
Yeah, it's about fundamentals with him. It's not about physical traits. It's about fundamentals. Pass sets for him get him in a lot of trouble, a lot of false steps. Stepping forward to go backwards. You know that's not going to work. No. If you're not gaining any ground going backwards against these pass rushers, they are gone. He had a heck of a pro day. He's strong as a bull. But his technical work is going to need a lot of improvement if he's going to be able to pass protect at the NFL level against the pass rushers.
Keep in mind, this was a spot we thought could be Davis Mills.
Yep, exactly.
The sixth quarterback has not yet come off the board. We're over halfway through the second round. And Davis Mills, this was a spot, Washington, perfect spot for Davis Mills, quarterback out of Stanford. We have not yet had that sixth quarterback.
Yeah, I don't think Davis may sneak through this round. He ain't going to sneak through much further than that. The top of the third.
So as a big-time Texas fan, Sam Cosmi was a 3-star recruit coming out of high school. Definitely had a great relationship with his quarterback, Sam Ellinger, as well as his roommate, Derek Kirkstetter, who's going to be returning back to Texas this year. Sam was fantastic as a left tackle, much better in the run game, relatively new to the position as he has guard versatility as well. Caught a touchdown pass, so it shows his athleticism on a screen against West Virginia during his junior year, had an excellent collision with Darius Stills, who's in this draft as well, and will be drafted in the later rounds. They met at the goal line, and Cosme, of course, they both took a big impact, scored the touchdown there. This is a player that, as they alluded to, does have to have some technical refinements in the passing game, but 36 bench press reps, a 4.840, an extremely good long jump and vertical leap. Samuel has everything that it takes to be an excellent tackle in the NFL, and I think he projects the best on the right tackle side.
Also, a speedy receiver, somebody you didn't have up there, Tutu Atwell, somebody that may fit to get some explosiveness in that offense. But I'm shocked that Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is still on the board. What did you plan? Is the weak side linebacker, is the safety? I'm playing that playmaker. Put him on the field. He'll go sideline to sideline, and he can make a ton of plays in the middle of the field.
Yeah, the value may match the need here. They need speed and explosiveness on the second level of the defense. We talked about it last night before they drafted Newsome. This kid really is a hybrid safety / linebacker. He's a space player, is what he is. The league has become about space. The league has become about athletic ability on defensive linebacker. He represents that. It makes sense here. It makes sense. They could use him. Let's see if they take him.
If they do, it will be a steal. Whoever takes him is going to be a steal. And during the draft, according to our draft predictor, there was less than a 1%.
Randy Savage, somebody acting like the Macho King. Oh, yeah, Randy Savage. Stephanie with Slim Jim. And he's coming out to announce the 52nd pick, unless he's just entertaining the crowd here. The Cleveland Browns, some of their team needs are defensive end, linebacker, and defensive tackle.
We're dancing. We've got all sorts of merriment and fun going on here in the building. As the hometown fans who have been just spectacular. What a great job Cleveland has done hosting this event the last few days. Here comes the commissioner to announce the hometown team's selection.
Joining me tonight for the Browns pick is Coach Marty Gibbons from Lake Catholic High School. Coach Gibbons is a recipient of the 2020 Cleveland Browns High School Coach of the Year Award. His commitment and dedication to the football community goes above and beyond, and he is truly a player's coach. Coach, we congratulate you for your awards and what you're doing for the next generation of our youth. Coach, it's your honor for the Cleveland Browns choice.
What's up, Cleveland? With the 52nd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Cleveland Browns select Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, University of Notre Dame.
The number 7 best player on the board. The Browns get a steal with pick 52. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the 2020 Buckus Award winner as the nation's top linebacker, goes to Cleveland.
62 tackles, 11 for loss, 3 forced fumbles, 3 pass breakups, an interception, and a touchdown in that huge win over Clemson. Won the Buckus Award. He was the conference defensive player of the year. Booger, you've been waiting to hear this name.
And Greeny, when you think about their defensive coordinator, Joe Woods, and what they
think this, 6'1", 215 pounds. Maybe that's the concern and why he fell. But with his speed, his quickness, he compares to a guy like Darius Leonard, also 215 pounds, all-pro linebacker for the Colts, or Levante David, Super Bowl champion winner for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So when you're watching Owusu-Koramoah, what stands out to you? At 215, he packs a punch. One of the heaviest hitters we've seen in college football over the past 5 to 10 years. His speed to the ball. He diagnoses plays. He knows where the ball is going. He knows his assignment. Can be used inside the hash, outside the hash. You can put him on a running back. You can put him on a slot receiver. You can put him on a tight end. He is sensational. Excellent against the run. Excellent against the pass. Your Buckus Award winner, first team, unanimous All-American at linebacker. The Browns get Greg Newsome, a corner in the first round, and Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah in the second round. The Cleveland Browns are having a phenomenal draft.
Covering with Appalachian State.
Absolutely. Number 52 for the Dallas Cowboys. I'll tell you what they need. What they need out of Jeremiah is this. Even more so than his run-hit ability in the run game, they need linebackers that can cover. And this guy, Mel, you know, it's the guy who lines up in the slot. It covers wide receivers, let alone running backs and tight ends.
Yeah, his numbers, you talk about allowed 18 completions on 40 targets. This is a primary defender in coverage. Talk about what he did covering slot, doing everything you want. He can get after the quarterback at times. He's 221 pounds. When he hits you, you go down. I mean, this guy is an aggressive, intense football player. The way he can square you up, form tackler. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, for the way the game's played today, with the coverage skills he has and the range sideline to sideline, an ideal fit for the Cleveland Browns.
You know who becomes a Browns fan now, perhaps, is the most famous alum from Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah's high school, Bethel High School in Hampton, Virginia. That would be Allen Iverson. Owusu-Koramoah played basketball for the school in high school, won a state title, and became friendly with Allen Iverson. Maybe now he will be the answer, if you will, for the Cleveland defense. So we have the Browns taking...
And with the Tennessee Titans pick coming in, they do have a lot of areas to improve. They lost Corey Davis in free agency, a wide receiver. I would look at Tylan Wallace with this pick or De'Ami Brown.
So this is a team that had a lot of offense last year, Lewis, and now that defense is coming together.
Exactly. Look, I mean, we saw him a couple times. Well, we saw him against the Baltimore Ravens on Monday Night Football, and things have changed here in Cleveland, as you can see.
Yes.
They don't hope that they're good. Now they expect to be good, and there's a reason why they expect to be good, because they have some good players. They have a coaching staff that now is lending some stability and consistency. I think they found their franchise quarterback in Baker Mayfield, but there's a lot of things that are going the right way for this city and this team, and Jeremiah's going to add to that.
All right, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock, and again, the picks are coming quickly tonight. They are ready to announce their selection here in the second round of the draft. Kevin Dyson, the former Titan, is going to do the honors for Tennessee right now.
All right, with the 53rd pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Tennessee Titans select Dylan Radunz, tackle.
So Dylan Radunz, our 34th overall player on the board, a big left tackle out of North Dakota State. This is a makeup pick for the Isaiah Wilson Award last year, the first-round pick who never panned out. And Dylan Radunz, 6'5", 301 pounds, blocked for Trey Lance at college, was an FCS first-team AP All-American, will be 24 by the time the season starts. But Dylan Radunz definitely stood out at the Senior Bowl.
Look about a kid. Ran 5.11, 24 reps. He'll get that up. He had a 32 vertical. Started all 16 games at left tackle. Did not allow a sack of Trey Lance in 2019. He only played that one game this past season against Central Arkansas. You look at a kid like, say, 6'6", 305. Dylan Radunz has the length, has the ability to keep defenders off of his body, away from him. Came back. Remember, he had that knee injury in 2017. Allowed 3 sacks in 2018. Then he improved dramatically between 2018 and 2019. That's what allowed him to be an early draft choice in the second round.
Yeah, he's got great athletic ability, great length. Gonna need to get a little bit stronger. You know how they love to run the football in Tennessee. They want to come off downhill and be aggressive. He needs to get a little stronger to fit in there.
Yeah, and you know what? And he fits this offense, because what did they do up at North Dakota State? They run the wide zone.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they do at Tennessee. It's a perfect scheme fit.
We are 2 picks away from the Pittsburgh Steelers. All the quarterbacks we've talked about are still on the board. Will that be the move? We'll find out in just a few minutes. You're watching round 2 of the NFL Draft on ESPN.
So with your home and auto bundle, you'll save money and get round-the-clock protection.
Sounds great.
Sure does.
Shouldn't something, wacky be happening right now? We thought people could use a break. We've all been through a lot this year. That makes sense.
Yeah.
So, now's not a good time. 3/5 of in sync.
Are you sure? You have us booked all day?
Read the room, guys.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay, at AT&T, everyone gets our best deals on all smartphones. Let me break it down. You got your new customers. They get our best deals. You got your existing customers. They also get our best deals. Everyone gets the deals. Questions?
Got it. But why did you use a permanent marker?
Because they want to make sure you remember. I'm going to get a new whiteboard.
It's not complicated. Only AT&T gives new and existing customers the same great deals on all smartphones. Get up to $800 off our latest 5G smartphones.
Every time I eat stuffed crust from Pizza Hut, I play this song. But watch what happens when I play it backwards.
Eat 3-topping stuffed crust backwards.
The original stuffed crust, just $11.99. No one outpizzas the Hut.
Where will we be in 5 years? In 50 years? Let's be here and here. Let's deliver technology to give everyone, everywhere, access to security and privacy, to equality and fairness, to a sustainable world. Cisco has made it its purpose to power an inclusive future for all. Where will we be in 50 years? Let's go see. Between the world and what we make of it, there's a bridge. Cisco, the bridge to possible.
I'm Gordon Bombay,
You're the Minnesota Miracle Man.
and I have nothing to show for it.
I'm starting a new team. Okay, this is exciting.
I've never coached before. I could really use your...
So as we take a look at the draft board and we go through our quarterbacks, we have 5 of our top 6 quarterbacks off the board. We have 3 of our top 4 running backs off the board. Only 3 running backs and 5 quarterbacks have been taken. We have 7 of our top 9 wide receivers off the board. We have 1 tight end off the board. That was our top tight end, Kyle Pitts. And now as we look at the tackle position, we have 9 out of 10 tackles taken and 11 out of 13 total. At the guard position, we have Wyatt Davis available. Other than that, Rashawn Slater, our first guard, and our third guard, Elijah Vera-Tucker, were taken. We should be seeing Quinn Miners and Trey Smith here in the second round. Landon Dickerson, Creed Humphrey, both had first-round grades. We did see Dickerson come off the board, pick 38 today to the Eagles. Creed Humphrey is still available, although we should be seeing him picked soon. So now that we have the Colts on the board, I'd be thinking of a Tylan Wallace-type player, a Joseph Osai, or address the defensive line with an Aleem McNeil or a Marvin Wilson, Milton Williams. Looking at the rest of what they'd be looking for as far as a need, it would be Patty Fryermuth, the tight end, Baby Gronk, here out of Massachusetts by way of Penn State.
From his home.
So let's go ahead as they take the stage here for the 54th pick in the draft. It's going to be brought to you by Vaughn, a St. Jude patient for the Indianapolis Colts.
Hey family, thanks to the NFL for all the support involving kids like me. Now back to you in Cleveland to make the pick. Go Colts!
To announce the Indianapolis Colts selection, please welcome from Howard University, 3-time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion, and 2013 Colts Man of the Year, Antoine Bethea.
Thank you, Vaughn. Happy to see you doing well. And with the 54th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Indianapolis Colts select Dayo Odangbo, DN Vanderbilt.
So this is
12 sacks in his career for Dayo Odangbo out of Vandy, and this is about where we expected him to go.
This is a bit of a surprise. Second team All-SEC, a defensive end out of Vanderbilt. This is the first player from Vanderbilt off the board, 6'5", 285. Gives you a steady combination of playing the rush and the pass. Had 32 tackles this past year. In his career, 31 tackles for loss. So a consistent contributor all 4 years there. Didn't exactly stand out as far as a guy that we thought would go in the second round. We saw him more as a 4th or a 5th round pick, but a consistent 4-year performer against high-level competition. This pick makes sense. However, we did have some defensive ends such as Jonathan Cooper, Milton Williams, Carlos Boogie Basham, and Patrick Johnson ahead of him. And we'll go to Mel Kiper and let you listen into some of the breakdowns that he has given on this team as we have the Steelers on the clock with pick 55.
That was Odangbo.
I'll tell you this, Mel. At 6'5", 285, I was watching this kid and was just getting giddy, going, oh my goodness. How unfortunate it was that he got hurt preparing for the Senior Bowl, because this is a guy who had some of the best hand use I thought as a pass rusher of anybody in this draft. I mean, he's the kind of guy who can stay clean. He's got spins, he's got rips, he's got long arm, he's got full. And they were playing him all over the place. 9 technique, 3 technique, he can play any.
So as you can see, the Colts are definitely putting an emphasis on the pass rushing game. They traded their first-round pick a year ago to get DeForest Buckner to really solidify the inside. Now that Kamoko Toure and Danico Autry, former second-round picks, haven't exactly established themselves as the premier pass rushers they were hoping they would become. We saw them take Kwity Paye, a steal at pick 21, our 11th overall ranked player on the board, and they come out and get Deo Odeng Igbo here in the second round to address that pass rushing situation. So here we have Franco Harris, the 1990 Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee, known best for the Immaculate Reception, giving the pick for the Steelers here.
And here we go, Steelers! Yeah, Steelers, here we go. With the 55th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft.
I'd be looking at Creed Humphrey.
Pittsburgh Steelers select Pat Freiermuth from Penn State University.
So this is Baby Gronk. This is Patty Freiermuth from Penn State, the Massachusetts product. Has been compared to Rob Gronkowski, his favorite player growing up, the Big Ten tight end of the year there from Merrimack, Massachusetts.
Then to call him Baby Gronk, but that's what they did. He wore the familiar number 87, and he broke Mike Gesicki's school record for touchdowns, Mel, in his career.
He did, and look at that 2020 season. Best game would be the final one of his college career against Nebraska. He had 7 catches for 113 yards. Shoulder injury, second game of the year against Ohio State, required surgery. Brought his season to a premature end. Go back to 2019 against Michigan State. He was the first tight end in school history for 3 touchdown receptions in a game. He had 43 catches in that season for an 11.8 average and 7 touchdowns. Impressive body control after the catch. Tough to get to the ground. I tell you what, you take a seam and he will stretch it. He's a guy, he's a blocker. You'll see some good blocks on occasion. Some refinement is needed. He's coming back from that shoulder injury. Evidently, from what the teams I spoke to, medical is not going to be a problem for Pat Freiermuth. He should be ready to roll.
He's the quintessential wide tight end, on the ball, can run, pass, block. But I'm not in love with the pick because it doesn't solve the problem up front with their offensive line. I get it. We're getting closer. Running back to tight end. Maybe we can.
So I did think that they would address the offensive line with that pick, which is why I was looking at Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma at the center position to replace the retired Marquise Pouncey, who had a great career there with Ben Roethlisberger and the Pittsburgh Steelers, a former Super Bowl champion. Adding Patty Freiermuth, we had Patty as the 33rd best player on the board, our number 2 tight end. So to get him here at 52, that was a definite steal. Fits a need for the team. It's going to give Ben Roethlisberger another great asset on that line. They love to pass the ball, but now with taking Najee Harris first round, the running back, they're going to get more into 12 personnel and utilize that tight end position, the play action passing game, and get back to what made Ben Roethlisberger most successful in his career. As we saw them spread the ball out, kind of abandon the running game and that tight end position. We've seen them get off to hot starts that hasn't been sustainable deep into the postseason. So as the weather gets a bit worse into December, January, when you're playing playoff football, addressing the front of that team and the backfield with the running back and tight end position puts this team in the driver's seat offensively. We should see them address the offensive line position in the rest of the draft, but getting a 33rd best overall player on our board at pick 52 is a definite great value here. We had Najee Harris as the 8th best player, and they got him at pick 24 in the first round. So the Steelers are playing this game extremely wisely right now, having an excellent start to the NFL draft, really building around what they had last year as they started 11-0 before fading a bit later into the season. So having that run game, that's going to give them something to rely on, take the ball out of veteran Ben Roethlisberger's hands, be a bit more well-versed and well-balanced to give you a threat from all angles. And as we look, we have the Seattle Seahawks coming in with the 56th pick here. They have a multitude of areas that they could really address. Of course, the tight end position isn't something that we would go after, despite it being a need with Patty Freiermuth going right there. But the running back position, a guy like Michael Carter would be a great fit. At the center position, a player like Creed Humphrey that we have alluded to in the past, being a first-round grade, 21st overall, is still available. At the linebacker position, Texas's Joseph Osai, our 25th best player available, and Missouri's Nicholas Bolton, the 27th best player available, both stand out as potential players in this pick. Andre Sisco, a safety out of Syracuse, 10 interceptions in his final 11 games. He's just a ball hawk, an excellent player that could be added here, as well as Jamar Johnson out of Indiana, or Darius Washington, a Bob Sanders clone out of TCU. So with the pick in, we'll go back to ESPN and we'll go to the podium as soon as we get that pick.
The big boss with the big boss for the king of competitions, DraftKings Championship Series. Moolah!
The connections you make today could be the first step toward the community you build tomorrow.
I've been waiting to meet you all.
Welcome back to the 2021 NFL Draft, presented by Courtyard by Marriott.
It is time now to take a look at Mel's best available, brought to you by Courtyard by Marriott. Mel, who are we waiting to see?
I'll tell you, wait to see the run on the receivers at some point. I want to see that coming. Terrace Marshall Jr., LSU, thought he could be a one. The injury concern there. So Eskridge as well, a slot receiver, heck of a player. De'Ami Brown. Ronnie Perkins, one of the better pass rushers, still on the board there.
So when we talk about Mel Kiper's best available at this point, he has Terrace Marshall, Dwayne Eskridge, De'Ami Brown, Ronnie Perkins, and Tutu Atwell. We're very high on Terrace Marshall, De'Ami Brown, and Ronnie Perkins. Dwayne Eskridge is our 170th best prospect on the board, and Tutu Atwell is our 172nd best player on the board. What's a bit of a mystery to me with Tutu Atwell is that he weighed in at 155 pounds, which is the smallest wide receiver ever weighed at a pro day, expected to be drafted in the top 4 rounds, and he only ran a 4.540. So the size-speed combo isn't there to translate to the NFL. I don't know why Mel has him that highly, but we'll see how that goes. And the pick is in for the Seahawks. They take exactly who Mel was just talking about. Dwayne Eskridge as a guy that we have at 170, Tutu Atwell, the other guy that we weren't too high on. Eskridge is going to be 24 by the time the season starts at 5'8", 184, is a special teamer, somewhat similar to Tyler Lockett, who will be joining with in Seattle. A bit overvalued here. We had him at 170, and he gets picked here at pick 56.
I mean, here he's just running a simple post. Just look, let's just see you later. I mean, he's getting doubled and see you, and he's continually pulling away from people. He's just a big play waiting to happen. Great deep ball tracking skills, as you can see right here. His vision's impaired. He still makes the play. You want to run him on jet sweeps. You want to run him on wide receiver reverses.
So the concerns we have here at TDLive with a guy like Dwayne Eskridge is the fact that he played extremely low-level competition. He never played a Power 5 school and had over 100 yards, and only having 34 catches in his final year of college. You're drafting a special teamer here in the second round. As we said, we had him at 170. That's a mid to late 5th round grade. Not saying this guy can't play, but for what you're paying, it would be like paying $20 at McDonald's for a 20-piece McNugget. You have better players available on the board. Terrace Marshall, De'Ami Brown, Tylan Wallace is a wide receiver out of Oklahoma State. We have with the first round grade Amon-Ra St. Brown out of USC, Seth Williams out of Auburn, Nico Collins out of Michigan. Much better options in our opinion. But of course, it's how these players are utilized in their scheme. If he's an all-pro special teamer, the pick makes sense. So we'll see how it unfolds there. And the Rams are on the clock, pick 57, their first pick on the board. Haven't had a first-round pick since Jared Goff, who they moved to get their new quarterback, Matthew Stafford. Lots of talent on the board, lots of holes on this team. Best player available as far as what would fit their need would be Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma. But, of course, on the defensive side of the ball, they have a lot of holes to fill with Michael Brockers, Troy Hill, etc. being lost, Morgan Fox, and free agency.
The matter of how to build a man, handbook. Absolutely. He looks perfect. Okay, you got guys like Tyler Lockett, who is as good a deep threat as anybody in the league as well, although he's a little bit smaller. Then you got Eskridge, who can just deploy everywhere. Put him in the slot, put him at X, put him at Z. He's just a home run hitter. That offense is explosive. The question is, though, can you keep Russell from getting hit a lot?
And that's one of the things I'm going to have to disagree with there. We saw the breakdown, and they're saying, well, Tyler Lockett's a deep threat, and Dwayne Eskridge can do it all. That isn't what we've seen on film whatsoever. He does have the game-breaking speed, similar to a Lockett, Lockett coming out of Kansas State, of course, an incredible special teamer as well. But Eskridge only having 34 catches. We haven't seen that volume as far as his ability to get open as an X, as a Y. He's one of those guys that is more of a home run hitter than a consistent mover of the chain. So as far as a guy you want in the slot, I have a couple players that I prefer over him, such as Tylan Wallace. I think would be more of an 80-90 catch guy compared to an Eskridge of 40 catches as a max. So different style players. I don't necessarily agree with that scouting report, but we'll see how it unfolds as he gets into a professional organization. And we see Sean McVay on the phone. The Rams are making their pick. He's at his draft house there in Malibu, California, of course, right on the water. We've raved about both his house and Cliff Kingsbury in the past, since we've seen them working remotely the past 2 years for the NFL draft. And Rams fans are celebrating quite the party there. And we're going to have to think that they're going to take the best player available here on their board, regardless of need. And in my opinion, that should be Creed Humphrey, a center out of Oklahoma.
And attention, good football player. They're dominated at Wisconsin Whitewater at guard. So you're getting those interior linemen now as well. I like Ben Cleveland out of Georgia. I think he's a really underrated player. But I think Creed Humphrey is going to anchor an offensive line for a long time.
Yeah, look, they needed to address the offensive line for a while now out there. Sean McVay is as good a play caller in the run game as there is in the NFL. He's right along the lines of Kyle Shanahan. He understands how to build football teams front to back, especially when you're talking about building them through the run game. I think offensive line makes a lot of sense for him here. He's going to have to go to work, make some blue-collar type of picks so they can go ahead and challenge in the NFC and see if they can get back to the Super Bowl.
So as we alluded to, we do think Creed Humphrey would be the best player on the board. He was our 21st best player available. Some of the other interior linemen that we do have on our board are Wyatt Davis, the 24th best player available out of Ohio State. Quinn Miners out of Wisconsin Whitewater, the big Canadian, has really stood out at the Senior Bowl. A very impressive player. Trey Smith out of Tennessee. You have Ben Cleveland. Of course, Aaron Banks already went. And here is former Ohio State left tackle, number 1 overall pick in 1996, blocked for Eddie George, teammate of, rest in peace, Terry Glenn. And he's coming out to make this pick for the Los Angeles Rams, the Hall of Famer this year, Orlando Pace, one of the best tackles of all time.
Selection. Talk about a big man. Woo.
Big Pace. With the 57th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Los Angeles Rams select Tutu Atwell, wide receiver, Louisville.
So this is the player I have a big concern with. This is a 5th, 6th round grade. You get a guy that weighs 155 pounds who is not a speedster. This is not going to translate to the NFL level, in my opinion.
Up in the draft report gave us 6th, 7th round grade. His dad was 5'8 1/4, 167. Tutu's 5'9, about 160, but 4.27 speed out of the Miami prep ranks. Same high school as Teddy Bridgewater. You know, you think about a kid, put up the big numbers. He had 8 catches in 2019 against BC. He had a big game against Miami that year. In this past season, 8 catches for 114 yards against Miami. He has punt return ability in the slot, a dynamic performer. I tell you, you think you got him and you don't. In a blink, he can make people miss, and he can take it to the house in a hurry, folks.
And this is what I call building an offense. Sean McVay is one of the best play callers we see, and because they run the football so well, you're going to have to get single high safety. What does that mean? That means you're going to get one-on-one matchups on the outside, and not dare anybody. I don't care what league you're in, line up.
You know, what kills me when I watch a lot of these receivers' highlights, I've seen it year after year, so many times when they have good speed, they get so many free, easy yards. That doesn't translate to the NFL level. I don't think this kid is going to be able to beat anybody with any physicality at the next level. Will be a core special teamer. That's why he should be in the 5th, 6th round range. We had him at pick 172. To take him over Tylan Wallace, our 23rd ranked player, is an abomination in my opinion. For the Rams to go ahead with their first pick in the draft and address the wide receiver position when they've severely overpaid for a quarterback and at the offensive position, when we have an offensive lineman ranked 21st overall, Creed Humphrey out of Oklahoma, 4-year starter, and you're going to take a luxury pick. So you have Cooper Kupp, you have Robert Woods, 2 wide receivers making over $12 million per year, and rather than addressing a need on your football team, you're taking a luxury pick. This shows the immaturity, in my opinion, of Sean McVay, the youngest head coach in the NFL, as we've seen him lock up his quarterback, number 1 overall pick in 2016, Jared Goff, to over $100 million. And before he played a single down on that contract, was traded for pennies on the dollar for 33-year-old Matt Stafford. So this is an emotional general manager who continues to make the wrong decision. We're going to see a severe regression for the Rams continuing this year into the next few.
The reality of it is it's 100% true. I outweigh him by 20 pounds. I also made the interesting observation that, Mel, I can't count now the number of times you have referenced having evaluated a draft pick's father. I'm not sure exactly what that
his
says.
dad came out, wrote him up. He was a wide receiver at Minnesota. Tutu Atwell. Remember him? That's true. A nice player. And Hollywood Brown would be the comp to Tutu Atwell. If you want to comp somebody who's small, Hollywood Brown went 160, 165, that type of player. But Tutu Atwell, you can't get a hold of him. You can't locate him when he's got the ball in his hand, and he is quick as lightning.
And when you think of Sean McVay's offense, think about the amount of motion that they run. Think about how they use Cooper Kupp. Cooper was always on the move. Now, Cooper did a lot of blocking in that offense, especially in some of those wide zones. They're not going to have Tutu do that, but you won't be able to get your hands on him because he's going to be operating behind the line of scrimmage. You're not going to know where he is. Exactly, and he's going to be gone. This is a smart pick.
I don't know one 155-pound wide receiver in NFL history that's been outstanding, and I don't foresee it with Tutu Atwell. Very low recruit coming out of high school. Obviously, the measurables aren't there, both physically being 155 pounds, and then they said he ran a 4.2. At his pro day, he ran a 4.5. So the 4.2 hype was not correct.
NFL draft, the Kansas City Chiefs select Nick Bolton, linebacker, University.
We had a first-round grade on Nick Bolton, 27th overall out of Missouri. The Kansas City Chiefs make a phenomenal pick. Nick Bolton, 5'11", probably the heaviest hitter at the middle linebacker position coming out of this class. A 2020 second team, AP All-American, fantastic value on the pick. Really addresses the situation that the Kansas City Chiefs need to in the middle of that defense, where they have lacked the ability, especially against teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers with Leonard Fournette, to get downhill and stop the run.
Machine all over the field. Lou, and you had talked about him and referenced his skill set and the way he can play as an every down performer.
Yeah, look, he's a guy who has good tandem diagnosis. You see it right there. Behind the line of scrimmage, he can run sideline to sideline. And when he inserts, he's going to put all of his weight into you just like that. He has tremendous coil ability, the ability to unleash on you at the point of contact. And he's the kind of guy that Brett Veach and this defense is going to want, Steve Spagnuolo is going to want. They want fast linebackers that can move sideline to sideline, that can cover on third down. When you pair him with a guy like Willie Gay, who they got last year, this is a smart pickup for them because they got faster on defense at the second level.
And also, when you think about what they have in front, you got Chris Jones, you got Darren Reed, you got two guys who are going to eat up a lot of blocks. That means Nick Bolton will be able to go sideline to sideline. The center guard combination will not be able to get up to him because one of his weaknesses may be slipping blocks, going underneath blocks. He's not even going to get blocked because of those two big guys in front of him.
And he was a bit of a steal here as well, entering the night, according to our predictor, only a 26% chance he'd still be available at pick number 58. We are rolling along. We have 6 picks remaining in round number 2. No quarterbacks off the board so far tonight. Will that change shortly? We'll find out. You're watching the draft on ESPN.
So we have the Carolina Panthers on the board, followed up by the Saints and the Buffalo Bills. Of course, in the first round, we saw J.C. Horn, former cornerback out of South Carolina, going top 10. A bit of a surprise that he was the first corner off the board. We had him listed second as our 17th best player overall. And Matt Rule, as head coach in the NFL last year in his first draft, only took defensive players, has not yet drafted an offensive player on the offensive side of the ball. So as we go into this pick, we're looking at potentially another player to go with Christian McCaffrey in that backfield. I really like Michael Carter. He stands out. If we're looking at the wide receiver position to replace Curtis Samuel, who was lost in free agency, you have Tylan Wallace, De'Ami Brown, Terrace Marshall, or Amon-Ra St. Brown. Brevin Jordan would be a fit at tight end. We had him ranked 48th, so this would be about the time that you would see a player of his caliber coming off the board. As far as the offensive line, Creed Humphrey and Wyatt Davis are two of the players that really stand out as far as being available. Quinn Miners and Trey Smith, Ben Cleveland as well. Where we have these players ranked, Aleem McNeil out of North Carolina State, a Dontarie Poe type player, an incredible athlete. He and Milton Williams are two that should be coming off the board rather quickly here, as well as Joseph Osai out of Texas, Jabril Cox out of LSU. We just saw, of course, a couple linebackers go with Nicholas Bolton off the board, Azeez Ojulari a bit earlier. And with the corners that we have available, the only guy that we see in this realm being worth a pick would be Elijah Molden out of Washington. And as we said with the safeties, Andre Sisco out of Syracuse, Jamar Johnson out of Indiana, Ardarius Washington out of TCU, and Jamian Sherwood out of Auburn. So we have a lot of good players available. The draft has been at a breakneck speed. Lots of good wide receivers out there still. We've seen a big run. We saw a big run yesterday at the quarterback position, and 5 went in the top 15 picks. We haven't had a quarterback go since. So Davis Mills, Sam Ellinger, Kyle Trask, Kellen Mond, Ian Book, Jamie Newman, all players available. You would expect at least 1 or 2 to go today. However, with the overpays that we saw at the top of the draft, you could be seeing people that really bought into those top end guys and are going to be a little bit more patient as they build and round out their football team before they address the position again. So as we look, of course, Mel Kiper has Ronnie Perkins, the rush edge out of Oklahoma, a bit higher than we do. He has him as his best defensive player available. We have Joseph Osai above him, as well as another player at the middle linebacker position, Baron Browning, who climbed draft boards after an excellent college football playoff, had a fantastic pro day, tested in the 4.5 range, which was a bit of a surprise. And as far as the best defensive backs on Mel's board, we completely disagree, but he has Efiatu Melifonwu. We saw his brother Obi Melifonwu cut from the San Francisco 49ers earlier today. And we're going to go to Adam Schefter, who looks a bit cold. It's only 50 degrees there. Should be a bit warmer, but he seems a bit cool. So the Panthers, after this pick, have 10 picks remaining in the draft, coming off a 5-11 season. They added Hassan Reddick, Sam Darnold, Pat Elflein, and Cameron Irving. Of course, new head coach Matt Rule had coached Hassan Reddick in college at Temple prior to going to Baylor. So that makes perfect sense there. They could use an interior or a middle linebacker in the sense of a Baron Browning, but they have many needs. I think a Tylan Wallace or a Creed Humphrey would be fantastic. If not, Milton Williams or Brevin Jordan.
Pronounce it.
With the 59th pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Terrence Marshall Jr., wide receiver, LSU.
There he goes.
Keep pounding.
There he finally goes. Overlooked.
So we had Terrace Marshall as the 49th best player on the board, our 7th best wide receiver. So this is a great value pick, getting him at 59. He opted out of the season after 7 games this past year, had 10 receiving touchdowns. A first-round pick from Minnesota just a year ago, Justin Jefferson set the all-time rookie record for receiving, breaking former Minnesota Vikings Randy Moss' previous record at that rate. Terrace Marshall had actually beaten Justin Jefferson coming out of camp in college. A 6'2.5", 205-pound receiver got hurt early in his career, or early in the season after doing extremely well. We saw Justin Jefferson really take over and grasp that position. Marshall came back this year fully healthy, stood out in the 7 games that he played. Reminds me very similarly of former LSU player DJ Chark Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Joe Burrow was the quarterback in 2019. Obviously, you say, why is he still there? He had the foot injury back in 2019. Missed a lot of time. There was that concern about the injury that may have pushed him down from late first round, where I thought he'd be a pick late in round 1.
And the other thing to add about this pick is that Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator for the Carolina Panthers, was the offensive coordinator at LSU before accepting the promotion to the NFL last year. So he has a great relationship with this player. He's very familiar with Terrace Marshall. So obviously, Terrace was a high-quality, high-character kid with a lot of talent if they were looking and able to add him here to go with J.C. Horn in the first round. So they get 2 players out of the SEC on both sides of the ball, both skill position players, and they got them both at a good value in the draft. Matt Rule continues to impress in his second year as a head coach, making very wise decisions.
You see right here, between the numbers, you see where those hashes are? That's where he's going to go to work. That's where he's going to heat you up exactly where the red and the yellow is. So he's going to be very friendly to Sam Darnold because those are the shortest throws. The throws right over the middle, and he can take it the distance. This is a nice pickup for Carolina.
He's also reunited with Joe Brady, who was the offensive coordinator at LSU when they had that great season. And again, to your point, he caught 23 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons, 13 2 years ago and then 10 a year ago. Okay, now we go to New Orleans. The Saints, a lot of interesting decisions there. We've wondered whether they would draft a quarterback, someone to play long-term here, as they will go with Jameis Winston and Taysom Hill here, neither of whom they are committed to long-term. So we keep waiting to see if one of these quarterbacks will sneak into round 2. Running out of time for that. We've got...
So the Saints have a lot of holes right now. They lost Drew Brees. They have Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston at the quarterback position. They're well-stocked at the running back position. They should address the offensive line or the defense.
New Orleans Saints select Pete Werner, linebacker.
Wow, what a terrible pick this was.
His brother Dan played football at Harvard, first team all Big Ten this past year, defends the pass, did not allow a completion of more than 10 yards downfield, and now he is heading to New Orleans.
And we had Pete ranked as the 196th best player in the draft. He's 6'2", 240, had a career 4 sacks, 4 forced fumbles, and 16 tackles.
Pat Fryer, who's taken by the Pittsburgh Steelers, did a great job.
Really lacks the physicality and athleticism I'd be looking for out of a second-round linebacker. Projects kind of as a hybrid between a safety and a linebacker. I would have had this kid as a 6th, 7th round pick.
Ranks. Think about a guy that really, from consistency standpoint, 2020 led him in tackles. 2019 second in tackles. 2018 against Minnesota, he had 10 tackles in that game with a sack. 4th on the team with 58 stops. Contributed as a true freshman. Made his mark there on special teams. Worked his way, paid his dues there, guys, and developed into a heck of a player over the last 3 seasons at Ohio State.
Yeah, what he really strikes me though as is a 2-down Mike linebacker who's much better coming downhill against the run and or blitzing him in the A and B gaps on 1st and 2nd down. 3rd down, to me, he seemed like a little bit of a liability. I know he ran 4.58. I didn't see it that way on tape, but he is a guy who has 1st and 2nd down value, and he's a guy who can be a signal caller and get everybody locked up.
He could see it.
I didn't see it that way.
I did.
That's why I love you, Mel.
We have a difference of opinion.
Pete Werner, to me, I did see that he was did have the speed to compete. He's not going to be able to be lined out one-on-one with the tight end at the NFL level, and his speed against a running back, etc., is not going to be a plus, and he's far too thin and not physical enough to take on blockers and be a guy to hold down the middle. If you're looking at the value at that position, you got a guy like Nicholas Bolton, just a few picks prior that we had ranked 27th overall on the board, and then just a few picks later, you got a guy that we have ranked as the 196th best player on the board. So the draft is all about value. If you can get a steak for a much cheaper price, that's what you do. If you get a Pete Werner 5th, 6th round, that's where you take him. You get a Nick Bolton late 1st round, it's a smart pick. You get him in the 2nd round, that's an absolute steal. So the way that the draft works, it's clear to me that the Saints really don't understand what value is all about. Taking Peyton Turner in the 1st round out of Houston, a player that had 9 sacks over 4 years, and really contributed very little outside of the pass rush. So a guy that's a specialist and really is poor at what his specialty is, then you add on top of that the Ohio State defense. Now, talking to a lot of fans of Ohio State, they've been adamant that you do not want to take any player off of this defense, that's what let them down all season long. So we saw Justin Fields go 11th overall as a quarterback. The offense was outstanding. What's held them back from being a national title contender, even though they lost against Alabama in the national title, it wasn't due to the defense. You saw Justin Fields against Clemson have 6 touchdowns, put up over 40 points. It was never a defensive team, yet we're seeing players like Pete Werner far overdrafted. We didn't even have him as the best middle linebacker on his team. We had Baron Browning as the 58th best player, Pete Werner as the 196th best player. and Justin Hilliard as the 138th best player. So you're taking the worst out of the 3 linebackers we had as draftable players, and you're taking them first. Really bad by the Saints. Extremely disappointing as far as how they're evaluating players and what they're looking to build. Very good news for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers based on how the Saints are performing here this weekend.
Yes, I can.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
Get more out of Zero, now available with protein.
Your cravings have been taken to new heights, where seasoned beef and crispy potatoes cozy up inside of a warm tortilla. So enjoy the view for just $1. The $1 beefy potato burrito, only at Taco Bell.
Is the salmon wild caught?
Show me.
And folks, that's going to wrap up part 1 of rounds 2 and 3, and we'll be right back with the next pick.